We have a WWE Smackdown review back in our normal time slot. I missed the earlier shows. I have to say, I do miss the earlier shows. Yes, the international tour is over, and so they're back in the United States. Smackdown was in Chicago tonight, a very newsworthy episode of Smackdown. A good show, not a great show, but a good show, but a very, very newsworthy show with WrestleMania repercussions. And it all ties into the favor that CM Punk was owed by Paul Heyman. We've been hearing about this favor now for months, going back to War Games in November. What was the favor? Last week, we thought we had it all figured out because we had the triple threat match solidified as the night one main event in Las Vegas. CM Punk, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Paul Heyman telling Punk it's in the contract. You got what you wanted. And then that little line there at the end of the show, right as they were going off the air, with CM Punk telling Roman Reigns, but that's not the favor I'm owed, which was a great cliffhanger. But I wasn't sure if they were actually going to tell us what the favor was the following week. As it turned out, they built the entire show around it. Right from the beginning, with a segment we had with Punk and Heyman, all the way, and they made us wait until the end of the 3 hours to find out what it was. And I've been saying the entire time, one thing that they really should do is add something tangible to the triple threat match of WrestleMania. There's no championship on the line. You have Gunther and Jey Uso for the World Heavyweight Championship. You have these women's championship matches. Some people are upset that they're not closing the show with one of those matches. There's nothing technically on the line in this match. And what you have here are you have Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and CM Punk, three of the biggest stars in the entire company. And so why not make it a number one contenders match, right? They all want to be world champion again. It would make sense. And I thought, well, maybe there's a way that they could tie this favor into that. Punk's already got his main event. What's the other thing that he wants, right? He wants to be the champion. And he was actually probably going to be getting a world championship match at WrestleMania last year had he not gotten hurt. So would they be able to add something tangible, something at stake and on the line here in this main event? That's what I was kind of hoping for. What I was not hoping for, the one thing I was hoping it wouldn't be, would simply be CM Punk saying, Paul Heyman, I want you to be my wise man at WrestleMania. Now, Punk may have very legitimate reasons, in storyline for wanting this, because the relationship with him and Heyman goes back decades. Okay, they're very, very close. And as Punk talked about in the main event segment tonight, it's very possible he wouldn't even be here right now were it not for Paul Heyman vouching for him and sticking up for him at a time when he was very vulnerable and very new to this company, and people did not like him. People did not want him there. He was an advocate for him, going back all the way to the developmental days. So on a sentimental level, you can understand why it would be important for Punk in his first main event to want to have Paul Heyman there by his side, right? I get all that. But this has been months talking about this favor, dragging it out, making us wait to find out what this favor is going to be, only for it to be, Paul Heyman, I want you in my corner in the main event of WrestleMania. That was the big reveal at the end of SmackDown tonight. Paul Heyman will be managing, he will be walking him to the ring, he will be in the corner of CM Punk on night one in the WrestleMania main event. And this did not sit well with Roman Reigns. Obviously, now this creates some tension and drama involving Roman and Heyman, Roman and Punk. It does add a little bit of intrigue to the match, so, it adds something to it. It doesn't really have anything on the line, per se, but they went with, I feel like they went with the most predictable, basic answer they could come up with for what this favor was going to be. And it was very telling in front of a Chicago crowd that was very loud and very energetic and very up for anything involving CM Punk on this show. They loved him, obviously. When he made the announcement of what the favor was, go back and listen to the crowd. The crowd, it was like a tepid reaction. I feel like there were a lot of people in the building, as much as they love Punk, who also felt the same way. Like, wait, that's it? That's the favor? That was literally what Roman Reigns said on the mic after. He goes, wait, that's it? That's the favor? And then, of course, he wanted Heyman to say no. Heyman couldn't bring himself to say no. That's where the tension comes in. But even the people in Chicago knew, come on, man. Really? Really now? This is what the favor is? So they went with the obvious choice. We shall see how that's all going to work out now, because I happen to be in the camp of this only increases the chances that Seth Rollins is going to walk out of WrestleMania as the winner. I just look at this right now, the way things are set up. We're a couple weeks out, right? Or 3 weeks, whatever it is. We're a few weeks away from WrestleMania, I think 2 weeks. And Paul Heyman now is the centerpiece of this match. And so he's going to be in Punk's corner, but you know that during the match, it's going to come into play. Roman's going to want him to do something for him. Punk's going to want him to do something for him. And I just see that it's going to cancel. It's just going to cancel the two of them out. I feel like Heyman is going to get to a point during this match where he's like, you know what? Fuck the both of you. I'm out of here. And not that he's going to leave with Seth Rollins. I mean, that would be a huge swerve if they did that. That doesn't even have to be the end result of all this. But I feel like it's going to drive Heyman to the brink. And when all is said and done, he's not going to be in Punk's corner. He's not going to be in Roman's corner. He's going to leave. He's not going to be in either one of their corners. They're going to drive him away. And Seth Rollins, ever the opportunist, is going to sweep in and pick up the win in the WrestleMania main event. That's what it feels like to me right now. We'll see if it all plays out that way. But that was the big reveal tonight. Not the only thing, though, that was newsworthy on this show. We had the debut of Rey Fenix. We saw his brother Penta 2 months ago. Actually, it's longer than that now. It's actually coming up on 3 months next week since Penta debuted January 13th on Monday Night Raw. And he had that match with Chad Gable. Great debut for Penta. Rey Fenix was still, what were they calling it? Guantanamo Bay. Well, he got his early release, right? He got released. And so we knew he was going to end up in WWE. What we didn't know is whether or not he would join his brother on Raw, or if they were going to separate the two of them and put him on the other show, which is what they did. And so tonight he had his moment, just like his brother had his. And there were a lot of similarities between the two. And I'll talk about how that went and whether or not I think Penta or Phoenix had the better debut. But it was a big moment for him on this show. He wrestled Nathan Frazer, one half of the NXT Tag Team Champions. And there was a very scary moment that took place during that match. But great to see Phoenix. I thought he had a badass entrance. Again, very similar to the one his brother has. Pyro. They gave him pyro. So he made his debut tonight. I don't know if he's going to have a role on the WrestleMania card. It would make sense, because why debut him now instead of holding off until after WrestleMania if he's not going to have some sort of role on the card? But that's still yet to be determined. We had 2 number 1 contenders matches on this show. Last man standing, Jacob Fatu, Braun Strowman. The winner would go on to challenge LA Knight at WrestleMania for the United States Championship. Jacob Fatu will be going on to challenge for the title in his first WrestleMania. And on the tag team side, we had a number 1 contenders match with the Motor City Machine Guns and DIY, both former WWE Tag Team Champions, with the Motor City Machine Guns going over. And so, like Fatu, they will have their first WrestleMania match this year as well, because it's going to be the Machine Guns challenging the Street Profits. So, like I said, WrestleMania implications for a lot of what we saw on the show tonight. It certainly was newsworthy, and not always for the right reasons, because then we get into the women. Now, we had a WrestleMania match made official. I think we all knew it was going to be made official. Naomi and Jade Cargill, one-on-one. That is now official for WrestleMania. A match we already knew was Charlotte Flair against Tiffany Stratton. And those two are going to be wrestling each other for the WWE Women's Championship. Tonight, we had them in the ring, face-to-face. Right? A couple weeks ago, or maybe it was last week, they did the split screen via satellite interview, and that was a fucking disaster. Tonight, they got them in the ring together. Wade Barrett was moderating, and we had another face-to-face promo. And the word I would use for this was train wreck. If that was a disaster, this was more akin to a train wreck between these two women. I don't know what it is about these two on the microphone. I certainly hope that they have better chemistry in the ring in Las Vegas than they do when they have a microphone in their hands. Because these two, I mean, you talk about oil and water, the level of awkwardness, this is the second time now in as many weeks, and the level of awkwardness between these two is off the fucking charts. I thought that segment sucked. I thought it was the worst thing on the entire show. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know what it is about these two together when you put a microphone in their hand, but it's not good. And so what I'm hoping is that we have absolutely nothing else between these two women until we get to WrestleMania. You want to give us promo packages, you do whatever you want. But for the love of God, I do not need to see these two women interact in any other way between now and then. This was awful. And actually, what they've done so far makes me less interested in seeing them in the ring of WrestleMania. They may well have an excellent match together. Maybe they'll have great in-ring chemistry, but I'm not seeing it so far. In fact, it looks like these two may legitimately not like each other. And that could sometimes be a good thing, right? We've had people before in wrestling who don't like each other, and it kind of spills out onto TV, and it can make things a little more interesting. Not with these two. Whatever they were going for in this segment didn't work, and in part, because apparently what they had planned for this segment, they went off script. We'll get into what happened here, but this was a train wreck. And then there was some sad news on this show, because earlier today, there were reports circulating online that Kevin Owens was injured and he could potentially be out of WrestleMania. Nothing definitive. WWE hadn't said anything, and there was no word on even what the injury was. Meltzer came out and said that he checked with someone, and that one person said that it was a significant injury. And we're 15 days out from WrestleMania. Any kind of injury, let alone a significant injury, is not good. Kevin Owens came out on the show tonight and he announced that he has to go away and have neck surgery. And he is not going to be at WrestleMania. And by all accounts, this is not a work. It's not a situation where he's going to show up next week and jump Randy Orton. He's hurt and he's off the card. And we don't know, I don't want to say if, but with neck injuries, you never know. And he didn't get into the specifics of whether it's going to be fusion surgery or what kind of neck surgery he's going to have. Any kind of neck surgery is serious surgery. So we don't know when we're going to see Kevin Owens again. Hopefully it won't be that long into the future. He will not be in Las Vegas, which means that Randy Orton has no WrestleMania match as of right now. And it's just weird because 2 years ago, we were heading into a night one WrestleMania main event with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn teaming up to wrestle for the tag team titles. The closing shot of WrestleMania 39 Night 1 was Owens and Zayn celebrating their win. And now we are heading into a WrestleMania, and I can't remember the last time this happened, where we had a WrestleMania, and neither man was going to be on the show. Because Sami Zayn, he's out, right? He's not even scheduled for the show. He may have requested time off, and now Owens is hurt. Neither man will be on the WrestleMania card this year. It's very weird. So we'll talk more about what happened there, what happened with Randy Orton when he came out as well. I think we got a very big clue as to what Randy Orton's WrestleMania match is going to be, because he is going to be on the show. The only question is against who. And I think without directly saying so, I think we got our answer tonight. Like I said, very newsworthy show, so they packed a lot into this. Let's discuss. This is your Friday night SmackDown review. Thank you for hanging out with me here on Friday night, April 4th, 2025. I am the Solomonster. Like and subscribe. Super chats are open. You will see them popping up on your screen.
Why is Solomonster a
just
punk
like this
hater?
one.
Why does he hate Punk so much? What did he ever do to him?
Of course, it's Fire Panda getting us started here. Fire Panda with a very big super chat. Thank you, Fire Panda. I hope you're feeling well and doing well tonight. So anyway, you're going to see these messages popping up on your screen periodically. I will be reading all of them. So that'll come up a little bit later on in the stream. Please get them on in. We have a goal going in the chat as well. I also want to point out, because it's going to be a very busy weekend, that on Sunday, of course, episode 908 of The Sound Off will drop. But also Sunday night is AEW Dynasty. Will the nightmare finally end? Will Swerve Strickland end the run of Jon Moxley? We'll find out. But I will be live on YouTube when that show is over. So don't forget, there will be a Dynamite post show coming up on Sunday night. Like I said, a very busy weekend coming up here on the channel. And hopefully you will be there with me. All right, let's get into the show here because, again, there's a lot. They were in Chicago. So, of course, what better way to kick off a Chicago show than with Raw superstar CM Punk. I mean, how could he not be on the show tonight? And he comes out to the predictable huge reaction. Chicago is actually the perfect city, frankly, to come back to the States with, because, you know, these European crowds, they were in London, they were in Scotland, and where else were they? Brussels. And all the crowds were very loud and very energetic. And so it would have sucked if they would have come back here and they were, I don't want to insult anyone's hometown, but let's just say they went somewhere where they were very quiet. Chicago is never quiet. So they came out, they were loud. Punk grabbed one of the television cameras away from Rico, the cameraman. And so he began filming the crowd a little bit. He said that the international crowds are the best, or so people say. And so Chicago, show them who's the best. And so everybody went wild. So he handed the camera back to Rico and he said that he's not supposed to be here. He said that he was born with a cord wrapped around his neck and he was turning blue. I'm not supposed to be here. Funny enough, I was born literally ass backwards. I was coming out the wrong way. It happens sometimes. And I'm still here. You're here with me. It's amazing. He goes, I don't know if you've heard this, but I'm in the main event of WrestleMania. And he said, he looked into the camera and he patted his arms. He was doing his best rock impression. He's got the goosebumps. Does that count as our second rock reference since we saw him at Elimination Chamber? So the fans chanted, you deserve it. He goes, I earned it. He mentioned training at the Steel Domain Academy many years ago. He mentioned dressing like a gangster, coming down to the ring during John Cena's entrance in this very building at WrestleMania 22. And he was told that he was good, and that was about as good as it was ever going to get for him, because he's not supposed to be here. He thanked his wife, April, and we got some AJ Lee chants going, and he said that she's probably going to be a little mad at him for doing that, but his puppy Larry would not be. And so everybody loved hearing about Larry the dog. You like the goosebumps, huh? There you go. You got the goosebumps. Punk said that the hard work begins now. And he says that he has a date at WrestleMania, and he promised to whip Seth Rollins' ass and to put a beating on Roman Reigns during the main event. So then we hear Paul Heyman's voice. Ladies and gentlemen. And out he comes. He doesn't need any entrance music. Literally just says, ladies and gentlemen. That is his theme song. You know, if they came out with one of those old WWE albums, they used to come out with the CDs every few years, there would be a track for Paul Heyman say, ladies and gentlemen. And when you play it, it literally is just his voice. And then some crowd noise in the background. That's his theme song. So he waddles on down to the ring. And he said that he just arrived in Chicago. He apologized for being late. Said that it was no disrespect to his best friend in the world, CM Punk. Fans chanted ECW at him. Okay. I thought for a second maybe they were in Philly. But no, they just felt like chanting ECW at him. And Punk said, you can't escape it. You can't escape ECW. Heyman said not to ask what you can do for your wise man, but rather what your wise man can do for you. He says, you belong here. You belong in this ring. You belong in Chicago. And by God, you belong in the main event of WrestleMania. So he remembered, asking Punk to take him and then being taken out. Oh, this is going back to last summer. Remember when we had the segment on TV? He's like, take me with you. And then the very next week in Madison Square Garden is when Solo Sikoa and the Bloodline, they powerbombed Heyman through the announce desk. And then he said, look, I was out for months after that, the longest that I've ever been out for. And then he pointed out what Punk said the night after, or maybe it was 2 nights later, his Hell in a Cell match with Drew McIntyre at Bad Blood, where he wasn't sure if he would even be able to come back. He was so beat up, right? He was really selling the injuries coming out of that Hell in a Cell match. And Heyman said that he asked Punk after that to be in War Games, and he helped save the family. He helped save the bloodline. Heyman thanked Punk, said that he had one more favor to ask of Punk. And Punk said, boy, everyone's just going for favors these days. What's the favor, Paul? And he said, the favor is that you tell me what the favor is that I owe you. Heyman said, Roman Reigns, he's going to be here soon. And you know how these Samoans can get. He's going to be very upset with me. Punk had Heyman verify. He goes, wait, you said he's not here? And Heyman said, yet. He's not here yet, but he'll be here. And Punk said that as much as he doesn't think the favor is any of Roman's business, it does affect him. He said that he would like to tell Roman to his face when he tells Paul, and he told Paul to let him and all of his friends know when the big chief decides to show up. Punk dropped the mic, and he exited the ring. So it was a good hook for, the second and third hour, I presume the third hour of the show. Keep people tuned in under the assumption that we would find out what this fucking favor is. So it was smart of them to do it the way that they did. But this is where I started thinking, okay, I started getting worried. I think I know what this favor is. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's something more. But when he made the comment about how this is going to affect Roman directly, I kind of figure what the favor was going to be. But again, it was a good segment here, and it was a good hook. No hicks here. It was a good hook for the rest of the show. They don't have hicks in Chicago, do they? I don't think so.
Off is a direction you can fuck.
They'd call me a Yankee. Hey, Eminem, thank you for the 22. Off is the direction where you can go. Not you, but anyway, Alex, thank you. So after a break, Nathan Fraser was already in the ring. One half of the NXT Tag Team Champions, Fraxium, getting the jobber entrance here. And his opponent was the Learning Tree.
Shut the fuck up.
Fuck that tree. His opponent was the Learning Tree, and out comes Chris Jericho. And this is where I turned the show off. Now, Chris Jericho is wrestling a different luchador this weekend. He's wrestling Bandito for the ROH World title. This was a different luchador here in this match. This was the WWE debut of Rey Fenix, who entered to a great reaction. They gave him an entrance very similar to the one that they gave Penta when he debuted on Raw. I thought the music was fine. Again, I'll have to listen to it the more I see him come out. But, he had pyro, and he was actually wearing two masks. So he had one mask over the regular mask that we are used to seeing him in. I think that top mask is the one that I believe they're selling already on WWE Shop. So when he got into the ring, he took the first mask off. And we got an early standoff after some chain wrestling. Fraser sent Fenix to the outside, and then he went for a suicide dive. And it almost turned into a real suicide here because he ran and he dove through the ropes, and I think his legs clipped the middle rope. And so it stalled his momentum. It basically just deadened his momentum. And he nearly crashed and burned on the floor. Now, Fenix did his best to try to catch him and cushion the blow. And actually, it looked like he landed right on Fenix's leg in a very awkward way. And I'm like, oh my God. If Fenix ends up getting hurt in this match because his opponent fucking landed on him and fucked up the spot, how shitty would that be? So it was very ugly. Look, shit happens, but the fans in the front row right there, right away, like, you fucked up. I'm sure he already felt shitty enough about it as it is. So Fenix quickly scrambled up to the top rope, and he soared. He landed on Fraser with a twisting dive, and then they went to the commercial. So when they came back, Fraser and Fenix, they were battling it out on the top rope. Fraser got knocked off, but he ran the ropes, and then he hit a springboard superplex into a final cut neck breaker, only for a 2 count. Fraser went up top. He was looking for a Phoenix splash on Fenix, funny enough, but he couldn't get it. Fenix had Fraser draped across the top rope while he stood on the top rope and ran across the top rope and then kicked him in the head. There was a fire driver by Fenix that got a very close near fall. Frank, I think he could have ended the match with that. It was basically like a pile driver. He fucking pile drove this guy down into the mat, only for a 2 count though. Fenix then hit Fraser with the goodbye amigo kick, and then he hoisted him onto his shoulders to finish him off with what they called the Mexican Muscle Buster. And he won his very first WWE match. First win of his career here in this company. When the match was over, Byron Saxton stepped into the ring to interview Fenix. They did the exact same thing with Penta, right? Only it Was it Kathy Kelly or Jackie Redmond? I think it might have been Jackie. But they did the same thing after Penta's first match. Had somebody get into the ring to interview him, which they don't do very often. But this was their first opportunity to communicate with the audience. And I thought Penta knocked it out of the park when they gave him the mic, and you could tell how happy he was to be there. Fenix was very emotional when the match ended. So as soon as he got the 3 count, it looked like he was legitimately, crying and tearing up. You can kind of see under the mask. Saxton gets into the ring, and Fenix can speak his first words. And he said that he had a lot of history in Chicago, and that tonight was the rebirth of Rey Fenix. He said he was reborn with rage and animo, and he said that he's been waiting his entire life to say these words, "I am WWE Animo." And then he dropped to his knees and he bowed to the canvas. Like I said, he was clearly emotional. That was real emotion that you saw there on his face. This is a man who has been waiting a very long time for this opportunity. Because I'm sure he's always wanted to go to WWE, but just looking at the AEW situation, clearly he was not happy. Clearly he wanted out, and he thought he was getting out with his brother. Things didn't work out that way. He had time tacked onto his contract. Reports said up to a year because he missed a lot of time with injuries, and it looked like he was going to be on ice, at least until the fall, because Tony Khan was clearly not going to use this guy. So he's sitting at home, and just imagine what's going through his head now. I'm sure he's very happy for his brother, but he's watching Penta get this spectacular debut on Monday Night Raw, and he's been killing it, and he's been selling probably a shitload of merch, and he's been doing great. And he's got to be watching that thinking, man, that should be me. I should be with him, or I should be getting the same treatment. That's where I want to be. And now I have to sit here and do what? Wither away, people forget about me. Right? And I'm sure it was fucking with his head, right? He was tweeting stuff and deleting stuff. He posted that video of him in a straitjacket. He was probably losing his fucking mind. So finally, Tony Khan had the change of heart. He let a whole bunch of people go early, including Fenix. This is something that clearly meant a lot to him. And so you could see the emotion on his face. Outside of the one botch by Fraser, which was very scary, I thought that Nathan Fraser was a great first opponent for him, just like Chad Gable was a very good first opponent for Penta. Right, very talented. They're going to sell the shit out of everything that the other guy does, trying to get his moves over. They followed the Penta blueprint right down to the detail, and I think debuting him in Chicago also was very smart because it's always a great crowd, and there were plenty of people there clearly who knew who he was. Got a great reaction coming out. I thought Penta was a little easier to understand on the microphone. Obviously English is not their first language, either of them. I've been impressed by Penta's promos, and he's been able to really get over with the crowd with it. Fenix was a little harder to understand, but I thought he did okay. I think the people pretty much got the point that he was trying to get across. Who had the better debut? Penta did. Penta had the better debut. If I had to choose between the two of them. But I think they were both great debuts. And I think they'll both continue to have success as long as Triple H continues to push them as something special, which everybody feels special when they first debut, right? I said before that Penta is coming up on his 3-month anniversary in WWE. So it's still a little early, but so far he's still killing it. And it looks like he's going to be challenging for the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania. Maybe he'll win. With Fenix, the jury is out. Because I think Penta, to me, when you watch him, he has a certain natural charisma. He has a physical charisma. I don't know if Fenix has it in the way that Penta does. So the idea of Penta as a single, I think he can go as far as they'll allow him to go. Fenix, I don't think has the same ceiling that Penta does. And I do think eventually we'll get the Lucha Bros together, but there's always time to put them together. They can get a tag team title run. I just feel like as a single, Penta has a higher ceiling than Fenix. It does not mean that Fenix cannot be a big part of the SmackDown roster. It doesn't mean that he can't win the United States Championship at some point this year and that he can't have success on his own. I think he will, but that's going to be up to Triple H ultimately. I mean, Fenix can go out there and have these spectacular matches if you put him in there with the right people, but the creative has to be there to support him. There has to be a role on the show for him. And there have been other people on the show, including Carmelo Hayes, that's the name I always think of, who should be in a hell of a lot better position than he's in right now. And he's not. And that is on Triple H. And hopefully Rey Fenix will not fall, victim to that. But as a debut, I thought it went very well. Let's see what week 2 brings, because in the very next segment we had, and I laughed when I saw them, because you hear a lot of jokes. Oh, just don't debut these guys and just put them in the LWO or put them in Legado del Fantasma. So what do we see in the very next segment? Legado del Fantasma. And they cut to the back, and there's Santos Escobar, and he's applauding, and he's very impressed by what he just saw. I mean, he should know. King Cuerno and Rey Fenix had many matches together in Lucha Underground, so these two guys are very familiar with each other. Can you believe it's been 10 years? 10 years since those matches on Lucha Underground. Man. So anyway, those two are very familiar with each other, like I said. Berto walks in, and he joins Escobar and Angel, and he says, I'm better than him. And Escobar was impressed by his moxie, and he said, you know what? I'm going to go talk to Nick Aldis, and I'm going to get a match made for next week. And we're going to have Rey Fenix one-on-one against Berto. So that match is taking place on the show next week. Look, Phoenix already, let the jokes begin, right? Phoenix is already on week 2. He's working with Legado del Fantasma. As long as he doesn't join, then I think he'll be okay. Right now, he's in that mode where they're going to feed him guys, to work with that he can beat. As long as he doesn't join him, then I think he'll be fine. They aired a vignette with Drew McIntyre sporting an eye patch like fucking Snake Plissken this guy looked like. This was after Damian Priest chokeslammed him onto the windshield of that car last week. McIntyre got glass in his eye. He said nobody cared about Priest unless he was feasting upon his scraps. And McIntyre talked about how Priest lurked in the shadows last week to ambush him. He said he had the best moveset. He said he had the best moveset. He said he was going to pray, and whenever Drew McIntyre prays, bad things happen, he says. Well, we've seen that before, haven't we? By the way, I have to mention this, since I mentioned Snake Plissken. I have to give a shout out to the man, the myth, the legend himself, the one and only, John Carpenter, my favorite director. John Carpenter, who, for those who don't know, got his star yesterday on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Mr. Escape from New York himself. So many great films. I mean, not everybody is a horror guy, not everybody is a Carpenter guy, but I am. So when I saw that he was getting a star, I thought it was well-deserved. Hopefully they dug up Vince McMahon's star, and they replaced it with John Carpenter's star. Braun Strowman was interviewed by Byron Saxton in the back. Strowman said he's sick of Jacob Fatu being a thorn in his side. He said he would buzzsaw him tonight, and he would go to WrestleMania and compete against LA Knight for the United States Championship and complete his grand slam of championships. Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga showed up, and they laughed at him. Solo said that no matter what Strowman says, he still has to face the Samoan werewolf. LA Knight showed up, and he told Strowman not to waste his energy on this pumpkin head. Solo said Knight has a lot of balls talking to him like that. Knight said they are gargantuan. Tama Tonga made his weird mating sounds and said that Knight should be worried about him, and Knight mocked Tama's noises. And then he called for a referee before making his way out to the ring for the next match, which was LA Knight, one-on-one against Tama Tonga. Solo was out there with Tama. He ran distraction while Knight was on the apron. Tama took advantage by knocking Knight off the apron and up against the side of the broadcast desk. After a commercial, Tama Tonga was in control until Knight avoided an elbow drop off the middle rope. Knight knocked Solo off the apron when he interfered again, and then he got rolled up, only for 2. Knight came right back with a BFT on Tama, and then he pinned him. So not much of a match, but it was a win for the champion, and it didn't last any longer than it had to. This went maybe 5 or 6 minutes. Paul Heyman was shown waiting at the entrance to the parking area where you see the parking ramp. He was waiting right at the bottom of the ramp, waiting for the tribal chief to show up. Byron Saxton walked up to him. Heyman said, "Why am I talking to you?" And he looked into the camera and he addressed CM Punk. And he said, "No matter what the favor is, my answer is yes." So he said yes without even knowing what the favor was going to be. That's how you knew that there was going to be trouble at the end of this show. I mean, that's like signing a contract without reading the fine print. So he said, whatever it is, my answer is yes. But he pleaded with Punk to share the details with him. Why would you say yes and then plead for the details? So as Heyman talked into the camera, we see a black SUV pulls up behind him. He says, "My tribal chief has arrived." But Seth Rollins exited the SUV instead, and he said, "What, you were expecting the other Shield guy?" Rollins said Heyman looked horrible. He put his arm around him and laughed and told him that he dug himself a hole. Rollins said that this favor business affects me too. So he told Heyman to let me know when Roman arrives because I want to hear what the favor is also. So again, they were really building it throughout the show, building the anticipation for what this favor was going to be.
Have the best moveset.
See, no matter how long Kevin Owens is gone for, at least we know that we will have him in the Super Chats. Nick Grasso, thank you for the 1999. We'll be talking about Kevin Owens here in a little bit. If you're joining late, welcome. We have a lot to unwrap on this very newsworthy show. But unfortunately, we have to talk about this next segment, which was newsworthy for all the wrong reasons. Because it was Charlotte Flair and Tiffany Stratton. They were out to the ring for a face-to-face interview moderated in the ring by Wade Barrett. Boy, did he have some bad news for us tonight. Wade asked Charlotte the first question, asked her to give a little more depth as to why she chose Tiffany as her WrestleMania opponent. And after all these weeks, does she still feel like that was a wise choice? Charlotte said Tiffany was begging and she's the gift that keeps on giving. And she said that she wanted a moment, and Charlotte realized that she hadn't done any charity work lately. And yes, she did make the right choice. She wanted to show the smartest wrestling fans here in Chicago, the smartest wrestling fans in the world, that there is no comparison between the two of them. So Tiffany asked if she was done. Are you done? Did you get your woo in? Maybe she got her woo wings. She didn't ask about that. Charlotte's biggest competitor has been the fans. And no matter how long she's been out for, that's a battle that she will never win. Charlotte loves to act like nothing gets to her, but then she's crying on some talk show. Now, I know what talk show she was on because I pay attention to this shit because it's what I do. She was on the Sherry Shepherd show, for those who don't know, and she was talking about her divorce from Andrade and her comeback and getting very emotional. How many people, though, are going to know that this woman was on the Sherry Shepherd show? Right? They never mentioned it on TV as best as I could tell. But she threw that little mention in here in the promo. She goes, "So which is it? Which one is it? Either you don't let things bother you or you're on talk shows crying and complaining." And the saddest part about all this, no matter how many titles that Charlotte wins, she will always come second to her daddy, Ric Flair. And that got a reaction out of the fans here in Chicago. And at WrestleMania, Charlotte is going to come second to Tiffany Stratton. So Charlotte now responds, and Charlotte says that Tiffany just regurgitates what all of my opponents have said over the last 10 years. Now, at this point in the promo, the crowd is booing so loud that this woman can barely speak. Now, we have seen people get mega heat, nuclear heat on these shows before. Dominic Mysterio comes to mind. The New Day, immediately after they turn heel, they come to mind. What a fumble that was. Right, but we've seen those moments before. And if you're a heel, right, you live for those moments. Like, that's the reaction that you want. You want the booing to be so intense that you can barely get a word out. Right? I mean, as a heel, that's probably the reaction that you pray for. So that was the reaction that she started getting here in this segment. Every time she would pick the mic up to her mouth, the fans would boo and they would get louder and louder. And she starts talking. She goes, "It doesn't matter, Tiffany," right? But then she stops again because the booing is so loud that she's going to let the booing go on, right? So she stops again. She goes, Tiffany reacts and goes, "What's the matter, Charlotte? Cat got your tongue?" Charlotte said, "No, they're booing so loud." Said, "Here's the thing. Tiffany can go ahead and have the last word." That's what she said. And then she just stood back. And what it felt to me like watching this was that she was gotten to. She didn't know how to react to this. She did not know how to respond to all of the booing. That's never been an issue before with Dominic or other people when they encounter the same kind of reaction. But like I'm watching her here, she's trying to speak and she stops and then she's like, "You know what? I'll just let you have the last word." It's like she gave up. She didn't know how to respond to any of this. So Tiffany said that at 25 years old, what was Charlotte doing? Trying to become a volleyball player, drinking in your daddy's basement. And at age 25, I'm walking into WrestleMania as the WWE Women's Champion. You say this is just another match to you? Seems I've gotten to you, Charlotte. And your WrestleMania record may be 4-3, and you may be the queen inside the ring, but outside the ring, and she stumbled over her words here a little bit. Outside the ring, you ain't the queen of shit. And they censored it. Now, when she stumbled over her words, and it was very minor, Charlotte saw an opening. So she was going for that queen of shit line, and Charlotte just talked right over her. And Charlotte started squawking like a bird. I shit you not. She starts squawking like a bird and said that Tiffany sounded squeaky. I can't even replicate what this woman started doing. Like if I tried to. I could try to. I mean, she
I'm squawking like a bird. Jesus Christ.
I can't even do it. I don't know where this came from. I don't know what this was. But she starts squawking and she's acting like she can't hear her. "Well, I can't hear you. I can't hear you." Tiffany said for 16 more days, Charlotte gets to call herself WWE's least favorite Nepo baby. That's the second Nepo baby reference, by the way, this week alone on WWE television. We already had John Cena doing it on Raw Monday night. He called Cody Rhodes a Nepo baby. So then Charlotte interrupts and says, "Nepo queen." She corrected her. But then Charlotte, in the very next sentence, Charlotte referred to herself as the #1 Nepo baby. So which is it? Are you a Nepo queen or are you a Nepo baby? Tiffany said when she beats her at WrestleMania, and when it's all said and done, you're going to be just like you are outside the ring, alone. She said, "What's your record? 0-3? And I think a lot of people understood the reference, but some people may not have. For those who don't know, Charlotte Flair has been divorced 3 times. So this Andrade divorce was divorce number 3. She's been married 3 times. Hence the 0-3. And Tiffany wooed. And then she dropped the microphone. That was her mic drop moment. The little dig about Charlotte's marital status, and then the woo, and then came the mic drop moment. And you would think, what a great moment to allow the champion to end the promo on, right? Like John Cena and Cody Rhodes, they had their war of words on Raw Monday night, and you could debate whether Cena won or whether Cody won. But like the first 2 weeks, especially that first week, Cena didn't even really speak to Cody, but he gave Cody the floor. And Cody was able to speak his piece, and Cena didn't come at him, and it's like, we're going to give the win to Cody. Because Cody's our guy, he's the champion, we're going to let him have the shine. Even though Cena could certainly, hold his own, right? It's like Charlotte is incapable of allowing her opponent to have any shine whatsoever. It's just, she can't bring herself to allow it to happen. So like, Tiffany has her mic drop moment, and she rolls out of the ring. And then Charlotte, who still has the microphone in her hand, she looks down at Tiffany on the outside and goes, "Hey, Tiffany, is that why Kaiser's in my DMs?" As they immediately begin playing Tiffany Stratton's music. So naturally, she had to get the last word in because she can't help herself. And that's how the segment ended. Then I see, when this was over, WrestleVotes on Twitter posted this. Charlotte and Tiffany said very little of what was in the rundown for them. Off script, quite a bit. Of course, I'm not surprised. I mean, you could tell just by watching the segment because it felt that way. But she was thrown off by the fan. Not a doubt in my mind that when the fans started booing and drowning her out with that negative reaction, Charlotte didn't know how to react. It's like when she came back after the Royal Rumble and she cut that promo on Raw and she was talking about how, you know, she missed 14 months and she had that ACL injury and she wasn't sure if she was going to be able to fight back. And it was such an uphill climb for her. And it was like a really emotional promo for her. And the fans booed. Right? And there's no way they were, or she was expecting the reaction to be that negative when she was trying to be serious and explain how I thought my career could be over. Right? This was supposed to be one of those like moments where you root for her and you cheer the fact that she was able to make this great comeback. And the same thing that night. It felt like she was caught off guard by the reaction. She does not react well in these situations. And she's been doing this for a long time. I mean, she's been on the main roster now for 10 years. I mean, you would think that something like this wouldn't rattle her, but not a doubt in my mind that she allowed the crowd to rattle her here in this segment. I'm not shocked that they went off script as much as they did. I'm sure that had a lot to do with it. This was a disaster. This was a disaster, and this feud sucks. I mean, let's just put it in terms that anybody can understand here. This feud sucks. Every time these two get together, it's so fucking awkward. And I don't know what it is with Charlotte and awkward segments. I think back to the belt swap with her and Becky Lynch. And you talk about awkward. I mean, that was even more awkward. So I like immediately thought of that. And then all of the segments so far, really the talking segments between these two, the split screen was worse in many ways, but like the split screen, what we had tonight, and Charlotte and Becky at that time, they had legitimate heat. I wouldn't be shocked to find out that these two women have heat too, and they don't like each other. It certainly comes across that way on TV. And look, I mean, if you have two people that genuinely don't like each other, that could be fun. There have been feuds in wrestling history with two people who don't like each other, and you could tell it comes across on TV, and it could add, oh wow, these two really don't like each other, right? It makes it more fun. Fun is not a word I would use to describe anything that we have seen so far between these two women. Nothing. But I'll say some nice things about it, even though I hated this. I'll say a couple of nice things about it. Tiffany Stratton did not come across as badly, nearly as badly as she did in that split screen a few weeks ago. She needed a segment. Well, I was going to say a segment like this, not quite like this, but she needed kind of a comeback from that. I felt like that's what this was for her. She did a lot better here. And Charlotte got a ton of heat. That should be a good thing. It should be a good thing that she was out there being drowned out by the crowd because she's the heel going into this match at WrestleMania, and that's the reaction you should want. It's just that she didn't respond to it very well. And the segment from that point on, especially, the segment just basically, it fell apart. I don't want to see these two have any other interaction with each other between now and WrestleMania. None. We have 2 SmackDowns left. We have SmackDown next week, and the week after is the one in Vegas, the night before WrestleMania. I have no interest in seeing these two do a fucking thing with each other on TV. Just put them in the ring at WrestleMania. Hopefully the chemistry will be there, and they'll be able to have, a great match, I hope. Because I don't see this being a one-and-done thing. That's the thing that scares me. This may not just be a WrestleMania match and then they're on to something else. This could spill over into Backlash. This could spill over into fucking 2 more PLEs after this, which means we're going to get more segments on TV between the two of them. And if the last couple have been any indication, that's not going to be very pretty. Okay, that's not going to look good. So whatever it is about these two, they don't click. They don't gel well together. I hope that's not the case when the bell rings. But this was the worst thing on the entire show. I don't know. I don't know what happened, but it just, from the middle on, it just fell apart. And Charlotte, of course, had to get the last word in because that's what Charlotte has to do. Ridiculous. We go to the back. Nick Aldis said that he had spoken with Raw General Manager Adam Pearce, and he had a very special announcement. He had a major announcement to make. Again, WrestleMania implications here. It says the next week on SmackDown, they will present a women's gauntlet match with tag teams from both Raw and SmackDown. The winner of that gauntlet will face Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez at WrestleMania for the WWE Women's Tag Team titles. Later in the show, they flashed a graphic that showed all of the teams that are going to be in the gauntlet next week. So they showed Bayley and Lyra Valkyria, Caden Carter and Katana Chance, Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark, Michin and B-Fab. Michin and B-Fab are not going to the title match at WrestleMania. Spoiler, it won't be B-Fab and Michin. Piper Niven and Alba Fire, it won't be them either. And Natalya and Maxine Dupree. Bayley and Lyra are going to WrestleMania. Bayley and Lyra will be challenging for the tag team titles. It felt that way to me on Monday. I said that in my post-show review. Bayley and Lyra are wrestling for the Intercontinental title this Monday. But we saw Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez in the back, like huddling together, like, oh, how are we going to address this Bayley-Lyra situation? And my guess is the way they address it is that they get involved in the title match on Monday. Then we have the gauntlet next Friday. They pick up the win, and there it is. There's your match. Because whatever they were doing or teasing between Bayley and Roxanne Perez has been just fucking forgotten about. Like, whatever they were building to there is not being built anymore. I thought for sure they were going to do something WrestleMania weekend with those two, and weeks ago they just dropped it. And Roxanne has been back in NXT. She was in the Elimination Chamber. We haven't seen her on the main roster since. It's been over a month. So this was the backup plan, I guess, for Bayley at WrestleMania. We had a number one contenders match, our first of two tonight, for the tag team titles. The Street Profits, the new tag team champions. They made their way out to the ring. They were in the crowd for this, watching on. Hey, Alex, thank you for the $25 Brie mode. Street Profits got a full entrance, made their way to the ring. DIY, after a commercial break, got a full entrance, made their way down to the ring to wrestle the Motor City Machine Guns, the one team who did not get an entrance. And as it turned out, the one team who won the match did not get an entrance here. After a break, Chris Sabin hit a suicide dive on Gargano and Ciampa. The Machine Guns had Ciampa isolated, but the top turnbuckle ended up getting exposed. Ciampa got the near fall on a Project Ciampa as DIY went to work on Sabin. Shelley made the save and got thrown out for his troubles. So Ciampa and Gargano, they're getting ready to hit meet in the middle, right? They're meet in the middle finish on Sabin. Sabin was able to avoid it. There was a skull and bones attempt by the Machine Guns that got foiled by Gargano as Ciampa tried to use a leverage pin to take advantage of the situation. He had his feet on the ropes. Charles Robinson spotted this, though, and so he stopped counting at that point. In the end, Sabin sent Ciampa into the exposed turnbuckle. That led to a roll-up and the win for the Motor City Machine Guns, making Sabin and Shelley the number one contenders for the WWE Tag Team titles. They did confront the Street Profits at ringside in the front row when this was over. Assuming this happens at WrestleMania, which is what I'm assuming. And look, I mean, they could always stick this on the SmackDown before WrestleMania, in Vegas. But hopefully this will be on the WrestleMania card because you have to have at least one tag team title match on that show. On Raw, they've already set up the New Day and the Viking Raiders. So I'm guessing that we'll have one tag team title match on each night of WrestleMania. And I like this because it means we're not just going to get some clusterfuck of a tag team ladder match with like 5 or 6 different teams, which is what they did last year when they separated the titles. We had like a big ladder match. And I thought, well, that's probably what we're going to end up getting this year. We're going to get, DIY and the Machine Guns and Pretty Deadly, and they'll stick Miz and Mello in there, and it'll just be one big clusterfuck. I much prefer this, that you just have a straight up, 2-on-2 tag team match. It's going to be the first WrestleMania match for the Motor City Machine Guns. As long as they've been in the business and doing this, they've never had a WrestleMania match before. And now they're finally going to get one, and I think that's pretty cool. And by the way, I just saw that we did unlock a second round, a bonus round of Be the Booker. We already hit that goal in the chat. Let's run up the score. I always like that. But yes, we will be doing at least the one round.
Shut the fuck up.
At least one. Fuck that tree. Brother Fluff Salisbury. Man, I could use a Salisbury steak right about now. Thank you, my friend. And thank you for hitting the goal tonight. Speaking of Miz and Mello, we go to the back. Miz and Carmelo Hayes, they confronted Pretty Deadly backstage, and they insulted them for losing to the Street Profits last week in their home country. Carmelo Hayes called them pretty useless, which I have to say, number one, that's a pretty funny insult. Number two, it's quite rich coming from Miz and Mello. You could say the same thing about them. But he called them pretty useless and then asked if they're a tag team or are you the Chicago Bears? Pretty Deadly responded by mocking Miz's role in the Marine movies. They said that Hayes was wasting his time by being Miz's partner, to which Miz cited his past as a 9-time tag team champion. And he asked, how many titles have you won? Kit Wilson asked Carmelo why he's been relegated to the Miz. And the Miz got upset and he said, they are Mellow don't Miz, and we are Oz him. Get it? Because Carmelo Hayes says he is him. And so now they are calling themselves Oz him.
You suck.
You know, the fact that this is what Carmelo Hayes has been reduced to is really an indictment on Triple H. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Like, there's absolutely no reason for this man, nearly a year since his call-up, #1 draft pick, to be stuck teaming with The Miz. It is the kiss of fucking death. And I just don't understand it. I really don't. We had Naomi against B-Fab. As Naomi made her entrance, Jade Cargill ambushed her from behind and got in some shots before security broke them up. Naomi stumbled her way to the ring, and so the match was underway. B-Fab worked over Naomi for a little bit because she was still shell-shocked from the attack. Naomi, though, managed to gain control. She dodged a kick from B-Fab. It hung her up at a tree of woe in the corner. And Naomi got the win with, I called it a modified kneeling lung blower. I mean, if that's going to be her new finish going forward, I think she could do better. After the match, Naomi called out Jade. And be careful what you wish for, because Jade hit the ring and she caught her with a pump kick. Cargill tried to hit Naomi with Jaded. She got her up for it. She got her up, in the chicken wing position for it. Security, though, intervened to separate the two. Nick Aldis then appeared on stage and he made it official. He said, enough is enough. Let's just make it official now. At WrestleMania, 1-on-1, it will be Jade Cargill taking on Naomi. And Jade was thrilled and she was celebrating in the ring, and Naomi flashed a very sinister smile. She was happy too, but she was more subdued about it. I believe, and I'm sure I will be fact-checked on this, but I do believe this is the first ever women's singles match at WrestleMania where there is no championship on the line. Now, they may have had some kind of like gimmick match. Like, I know many years ago there was some sort of like a Playboy pillow fight, some bullshit. I'm not talking about stuff like that. I'm just talking like just a regular one-on-one wrestling match between two women that has no title on the line. This is either the first or it's the first one in decades, because I can't think of the last time that's happened. There's always a women's championship on the line, or it's a triple threat or a fatal four-way or a women's tag team title match or a battle royal. So it's unique in that respect. And it'll be Jade Cargill's first singles match at a WrestleMania. Last year was her first Mania period, but it was a tag match. This time it'll be a singles match. We got a video of Damian Priest in the back addressing Drew McIntyre. Since we had Pirate McIntyre earlier cutting his promo, Damian Priest got to cut one as well. And he called McIntyre a coward, right? Because McIntyre attacked him like a coward. Cost him his shot at WrestleMania. Priest called McIntyre a hypocrite and said that he's a junkie who gets off on the high of telling stupid-ass jokes every week for a cheap-ass pop. Priest said that McIntyre plays the victim. He said Drew doesn't have to portray him as the villain anymore because he is the villain. Priest called for McIntyre to meet him face-to-face in the ring next week. And Priest said that he wants McIntyre to stop playing the victim and become his victim at WrestleMania. Victoria and Molly. Terry against the Cat. WrestleMania 2000. Did that have... Actually, Terry and the Cat at WrestleMania 2000, I think, was the only singles match on that entire show. But didn't it have some kind of weird stipulation? No, maybe not. Well, if that is the case, that's what, 25 years ago? It's been a long time. It's been a very long time. After a commercial break, Nick Aldis was standing in the ring, and he said that this is a part of the job that is not very fun. Said that there's a fine line between coming back last week like everything is fine and then finding out that you may never step foot in the ring again. He said there's a reason that they say don't try this at home. He said he didn't want to say too much and he wanted fans to hear it from the man himself, and with that, he introduced Kevin Owens out to the ring. And Owens walked out wearing a Bret Hart winged eagle. A Bret Hart windbreaker jacket. I got to get me one of those. A Bret Hart windbreaker jacket over a Finn Balor t-shirt. He was wearing a 10 Years of Balor t-shirt. Owen gets in the ring and Owens says that he's been doing this for 25 years. And for those 25 years, he gave everything he had every time he set foot inside this ring. He's had the chance to experience things that he will never forget. And he's had the chance to take care of his family, but there's a price to pay for that amazing opportunity. And that's the toll that it takes on their bodies. Every guy and girl in the back there has paid that price at different times, and now it seems that it's his turn. For the last 4 months, he's been dealing with a pretty serious neck injury, and they didn't know how serious it was, but this week they found out, and now he's got to go have neck surgery. And the timing, he says, could not be any worse. Not being able to get in the ring with Randy Orton really sucks. He thanked WWE for giving him the chance to come out and say all of this because he doesn't know when he'll be able to be out there in front of them again. So for now, he wants to say thank you, and he's sorry. And he went to go leave the ring. Randy Orton's music, he got as far as the apron, and Randy Orton's music hits. And Orton walks out. He's wearing like a black hoodie, I think, and he's walking very slowly towards the ring, and Owens is still standing on the apron. Orton walks up the steps. He joins Owens on the apron, and they stare each other down for a brief period here. Owens drops off the apron, and he heads towards the back. And Orton gets into the ring. Now, they cut back to Owens walking down the aisle. As Owens is walking down the aisle, he stops in his tracks because a fan in the crowd said something to him that obviously, I mean, he must have said something out of pocket to this guy, because Owens stops in his tracks. He turns and he walks right up to the guy. It's the bald bastard here in the photo. And Owens gets up at his face, and I couldn't read what Owens was asking him or saying to him, and I didn't see what the guy's reaction was because they cut away to Orton in the ring, and the camera lingered on Randy Orton, and they kept playing his music until I assume Owens either left or security, came over to intervene and separate the two. So I don't know what this guy said to Owens. Obviously, it was something pretty shitty because, otherwise I don't think he would have reacted the way that he did. And I don't know what it was, but I guess Owens told him off, and that was it. And once Owens went to the back, they stopped the music and they continued on with the rest of the segment. So Aldis broke the bad news to Randy that with Owens' injury, he no longer has a match for WrestleMania. And Orton looked devastated. And he was kind of like hunched over and he couldn't believe it. And then came the RKO out of nowhere. and he drops the general manager. Down goes Nick Aldis. Orton looks up at the WrestleMania sign, and then he looks back at Nick Aldis on the mat, and he leaves the ring. So let's talk about Kevin Owens first. So unfortunately, the news that broke earlier today was true, because it was all over Twitter, and there weren't a lot in the way of specifics about what the injury was. And then Meltzer late in the day said that he heard it was a significant injury. So it wasn't, because I was thinking, okay, depending on what the injury is, the whole story was building to the punt kick. And so one of two things could happen. They could have Owens come out on TV tonight and just get it out of the way and have Randy Orton punt kick him tonight and let that be the write-off, and we don't see him again for a while. Or maybe Owens can make it to WrestleMania, and even if he can't wrestle a full match, you could work an angle around it and still get the punt kick in. You get the same result. The fact that they didn't do that tells you how serious this injury is. It also, frankly, not that Orton, I'm sure Orton is a total pro. He's not going to, cripple anybody, but still, probably not the smartest thing to have Randy Orton punt kicking somebody in the fucking head who has a very serious neck injury that requires surgery. So it's serious enough that they weren't going to clear him to do anything like that. Maybe Owens just requested this and said, look, let me just go out there, be honest with people instead of working an angle. I'll just kind of pour my heart out, speak my mind, and that'll be it. So maybe that's something that he went to them and said, hey, I want to do this. Whatever it was, there are certain things that are more important than a wrestling angle. The fact that we didn't get the punt kick, it sucks, but it is what it is, right? The most important thing is that Kevin Owens has surgery, gets healthy, and hopefully, he's able to make it back, and it doesn't take a year for him to get back. But however long it takes, hopefully he'll be able to get this sorted out. It's crazy to think, though, that he's been having neck issues for 4 months, he said. And think about what he's been doing over the last 4 months, right? That was right in the thick of the Cody Rhodes feud. He went out there at the Royal Rumble and had that brutal ladder match that he had. You remember how that match ended. So if we assume he came into that match and he was already hurt, I mean, he got put through a fucking ladder on the outside, like a ladder bridge on the outside of the ring, and that was a brutal spot. He had that ladder match with Cody at the Royal Rumble. And then a month later, he went to the Elimination Chamber and he had that unsanctioned match, that big street fight match with Sami Zayn, and he took more punishment and more abuse in that match as well. So he put himself through the ringer. All the while, he's dealing with a neck injury, obviously not realizing how severe it is. I'm sure those matches did not help. I'm sure the ladder match alone probably made the injury far worse. Kevin Owens is not somebody who's going to go out there and half-ass it. Now, Kevin Owens goes out there, and I feel like even after all these years, he's still someone who is underappreciated because he's the kind of guy you can plug in as a babyface. You could plug him in as a heel. It could be a main event feud. It could be somewhere in the middle of the card. He was doing comedy stuff with Elias, or he could be in the main event challenging for a world championship. But he always goes out there, and he always puts in great fucking work. Whether it's on the microphone, whether it's in the ring, there's a reason why he's been around as long as he has. And I know there are people who wish he would have, more runs with world championships. And even this time, there were people upset that he didn't win the world title from Cody Rhodes. In retrospect, it's a good thing he didn't. Because imagine if he was the champion going into WrestleMania and had to relinquish the title due to a neck injury. But there are people who are upset that he didn't walk out of that feud with the title, even though he got to walk around for a while with the Winged Eagle belt. It was like he was the champion anyway. But he goes out there and he doesn't complain, and he always puts in quality work. He's a great fucking wrestler. I've been following his career since, the Mr. Wrestling days and Ring of Honor. So I'm well aware of this man's body of work. He doesn't hold back. He goes out there and he puts himself in situations where he takes a lot of punishment. And he's got a lot of mileage on his body. I'm not surprised that he has a serious injury. What I'm surprised about is that it took this long for him to get a serious injury. He's been very lucky. He's been very fortunate up to this point. But like he said here in the promo, it catches up with you. The older you get, the more wear and tear on your body, it catches up with you. And there's never a good time to get hurt. To get hurt now and to have to step away 2 weeks before WrestleMania, that sucks. And I feel bad for him, but again, hopefully it's something that can be corrected 100%. It isn't going to end his career. It isn't going to affect his quality of life. It just, the timing of it is very shitty. And you could tell from the moment he walked out there, and I'm still in the back of my mind kind of hoping that this is all like a big swerve. But then it became pretty clear that it's not. And so best wishes to him. Hopefully he'll make it back, 100%, whenever that may be. But it's just weird going into a WrestleMania without him and Sami Zayn on the show. Now, as far as what Randy Orton does at WrestleMania, he dropped Nick Aldis with an RKO. When he dropped Nick Aldis with the RKO, immediately made me think of the segment from last year. Or maybe it was 2 years ago. When was it, actually? I don't remember exactly when it was. But he dropped Nick Aldis once before with an RKO. And then he showed up at TV the following week with a check. Because he was fined $50,000 for that RKO. But he handed Nick Aldis a check for $100,000. And Aldis was like, the fine was $50,000. He goes, that's for the next one. It's the first thing I thought of after I saw him. This was the next one. That's now 2 times that he has dropped Nick Aldis with an RKO. And he looked up at the WrestleMania sign and he looked back at him. Without saying a word, they made it pretty clear what his WrestleMania match is very likely going to be. So you can come up with any scenario you want to about what they could do with Randy Orton. Maybe they could plug him in here, or maybe they could have a match on night 1 and then he wrestles the winner on night 2. I mean, it's very simple. You don't have to reinvent the wheel here. Randy Orton is going to have a match at WrestleMania. Randy Orton has to get in the ring with somebody that he can beat. Because the very next pay-per-view is less than a month after WrestleMania. It's in St. Louis, Missouri. It's in his hometown. He is going to be in the main event of that show. He has to be. Whether it's against John Cena, whether it's against Cody Rhodes, that spot has got to be for Randy Orton. So whoever he wrestles at WrestleMania has to be somebody he can beat. Nick Aldis is the safest opponent that you could possibly ask for. He's never worked a match in WWE. We know he can wrestle. We know he wants to. I'm sure he wants to. Why not give him a WrestleMania match, right? That'd be big for him. You've got a built-in story here where he's assaulted this man twice now. It'll be a one-off, but so what? This situation unfortunately unfolded the way it did. You have to pivot and come up with a plan B. You don't have to reinvent the wheel and complicate things here. Do Randy Orton against Nick Aldis. Randy Orton beats Nick Aldis. He goes on to challenge for the championship at Backlash in St. Louis. It's very simple. And that's what I think they're going to end up doing. Up next, we had Braun Strowman. One-on-one with Jacob Fatu. Last man standing. This was a number 1 contenders match with the winner challenging LA Knight at WrestleMania for the United States Championship. These two did not waste any time. Fatu went after Strowman outside the ring to kick things off. In the ring, Fatu dropped Strowman with a running neck breaker, and he went up top. Strowman intercepted. He tried for a running power slam. Fatu fought out of it, though, hit a running elbow, and then he went up top, and he hit not 1 but 2. Back-to-back mighty moonsaults. But again, no pinfalls, no submissions, no countouts, no DQs, right? You got to answer the count of 10. So the referee began her count. Strowman was forced to roll out of the ring just to make sure he stayed on his feet. That led to the commercial. Come back, and Fatu is in control. Strowman responds with a spine buster. As Fatu tries to roll back to his feet, Strowman pulls out a table from underneath the ring. He sets the table up in the ring, up against the turnbuckles in the corner. Strowman got sent outside. Fatu flew out of the ring with a suicide dive. That sent Strowman backwards, and he hurtled over the announce desk. Fatu then sent Strowman into the ring post, and he had him in position for a charge into the barricade. And instead, as he comes running in, Strowman hits him in the head with a fucking chair. And so, right in the face. And so down goes Fatu. And then, with a full head of speed, maybe not a full head of hair, but a full head of speed, here comes Braun Strowman. He's circling the ring. He's rounding the bend outside. I know this is your favorite moment of the week, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, indeed. We had an appearance tonight from the Strowman Express. Here he comes. He rounds the bend, and he collides with Jacob Fatu, and they go crashing through the barricade into the timekeeper's area. So they're laid out. Both men eventually struggle to their feet, barely break the count before 10. And that took us into a second commercial break. They come back. Now they're in the crowd, and they're brawling over by the production area. They're on top of some equipment cases. And Strowman suplexes Fatu through a pair of tables down below. So, I mean, these two were just destroying furniture left and right here. Like two bulls in a china shop. Once again, both men struggle to their feet before the 10 count. They make their way back to the ring. Strowman was right in the line of fire for a Fatu running hip attack through the table that Fatu himself, or Strowman, I should say, set up in the corner earlier in the match. He goes crashing through the table, and Fatu managed to get himself vertical. As Strowman failed to stand up in time, that gives Jacob Fatu the win, and that makes Jacob Fatu the #1 contender for the United States Championship at WrestleMania. This was a fun match. Not the best last man standing match you'll ever see, but it was fun for what it was. That puts a period on this whole Jacob Fatu Braun Strowman feud once and for all. And now Fatu, his first WrestleMania match is a title match, and he'll be wrestling LA Knight. And the only question now is, do you belt him? Or, the way I think it'll go, Solo Sikoa will get involved. It will backfire. It will cost Jacob Fatu, and that will then lead into Backlash in St. Louis, where we now have a reason to set up the first match between Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa. And LA Knight's reign continues on. And they'll have to find people for him to work with because, I mean, it's funny, even his first run with the U.S. title, very underwhelming. And it's less of an LA Knight problem and more of a, hey, can you find somebody to program this guy with that he can work with for a few months at a time, like give them a legitimate story and make it compelling? Because ever since he beat Logan Paul to win the belt for the first time, he's had nothing. Nothing. This thing with Nakamura, that was a waste. It's a gigantic waste of time. So I think he's going to retain at WrestleMania. I just hope to God they got something good for him coming out of it. You know, there's Aleister Black is probably coming in. I could maybe they just put him into a feud with Aleister Black upon his debut and he wins the U.S. title. Because we got another vignette tonight, by the way. During this show, the smoky vignette, the flashing Roman numerals. We had a very brief look at a shadowy figure who we could barely make out. Clearly, this is setting up the return of Aleister Black. Maybe that's the match. I don't know. But I'm not feeling a Jacob Fatu title win at WrestleMania. I think they want to have the full breakdown of the bloodline first and get that match with Jacob and Solo with no titles on the line. I think that's the Backlash match. At this point, they recapped the segment on Monday night between John Cena and Cody Rhodes and their big war of words back and forth. They said Cody will be back on Smack. Let me get rid of this guy. This clown is still here. And they said that Cody will be back on SmackDown next week because he was not on the show tonight. Paul Heyman was shown, and he was still waiting in the back. 2.5 hours later, by the way, he's standing still at the bottom of that fucking ramp in the parking area waiting for his tribal chief to arrive. And finally he did. And Roman Reigns exits the SUV. He walks right past Heyman into the arena. And he power walks through the gorilla position and out to the ring so fast. This man was walking so fast that by the time he got to the ring and was ready to speak, his entrance music had barely gotten going. You know, Roman always has those epic entrances. He's got like the Undertaker entrance at this point where it takes him 6 minutes to get to the ring and actually speak. So his music was only really starting to get going, and he's already standing in the ring. And he tells Chicago to acknowledge him, and so they did. And he says, "Wise man, is he here?" "Yes, my tribal chief." And we get chants of CM Punk from the crowd. He said, "That's exactly who I'm talking about." Goes, "Wise man, is he still talking about this favor?" "Yes, my tribal chief." Says, "Oh, Chicago, I don't know how you deal with this guy." "Wise man, should I share a secret with Chicago?" "Yes, my tribal chief." He says CM Punk would not be back here if it wasn't for me. And the crowd boos. They actually got Roman Reigns booed by insulting CM Punk here in Chicago. Either that or they thought Charlotte Flair was back in the ring. One or the other. He says CM Punk would not be in the main event of WrestleMania if it wasn't for me. And I get it. He's from the same city as me. I have to like him. You're good people, he says. You're good people. You mean well, but you're not that smart. CM Punk has been around forever. He's wrestled everyone. Legends, champions, everybody. But he's never been in the main event of WrestleMania. Not until he was introduced to the Tribal Chief. He says, we bring CM Punk out here so we can we bring CM Punk out here so we can quit this whole charade and wasting everyone's time. Let's find out what this favor is. Indulge your Tribal Chief. Roman didn't get CM Punk. Instead, he got Seth Rollins. And he danced his way down to the ring. Again, he was wearing relatively normal attire as compared to the oven mitts and stuff that he usually, the moon boots and all the bullshit that he usually dresses like, Kirby the Clown. So he comes down to the ring. And he says he wouldn't miss this one for the world. He doesn't know what this little favor is here, but the reality is he's got a feeling it's going to knock his socks off. Oh, I would say that's a bit of an overstatement. But this is what he said. He feels like it's going to knock his socks off. But the reality is he's got something else to say. Roman doesn't seem to jive very much. And reality. Those two things don't really go together very well. Roman doesn't seem to jive very much since Roman doesn't like to live in the real world. But when he steps outside of his little universe, reality bites him in the ass. He goes, example A, heist of the century. Example B, the main event of WrestleMania last year. So now we have the crowd is getting very restless at this point. And they start chanting, what's the favor? What's the favor? And they're chanting that over and over again. And Rollins says, hey, I'm wondering the same thing that Chicago is. But the reality, Roman, is that you underestimate CM Punk. You think that you don't have to worry about Punk. You just ignore him and he goes away. I tried that. It doesn't work. And that is a reality that I have to deal with. You could have stopped this in War Games. You didn't. You could have let me do it in the cage in Madison Square Garden. You didn't let me. So now we have to deal with this. Reality gives you two options. You either suffer and you get left behind, or you adapt and you control reality. Roman says CM Punk stands here because Roman made a promise to the wise man and he keeps his word. The reality is he didn't call Seth out here. He called Punk out here. And the fans in Chicago, they started singing Roman's name like they were doing in London last week. So now these chants have now carried over overseas now. And they were singing his name, just like they were doing on the European tour last week. Enough of this shit. Let's find out what this favor is. That's what I'm thinking. I'm writing in my notes here, enough of this shit. Let's get on with it. They built this up so much. I'm like, man, they better have a great payoff to this. So 84 years later, Punk's music hits, and out he comes. And he gets into the ring to join both these guys and Paul Heyman. The favor, he says. What's the favor? This is about friendship. This is about legacy. Promises made and promises kept. This is about loyalty. And he looked at Rollins when he said it. Paul, it goes back to Louisville, Kentucky. When he showed up and they told Heyman to fire him, and Paul said no. And hell, your wise man is just that. He's wise beyond his years. He prophesied this on Monday Night Raw. And even before that, to the day that Heyman left this company on Big Show's bus. You and me and Big Show and RVD talking amongst ourselves. And he mistakenly made it about himself, Punk said. He said, Paul, they're going to fire me. Like, don't leave me. And Heyman said, no, you'll be fine. And Punk said, what can I do for you? And Heyman looked him in the eye and said, when you main event WrestleMania, not if, but when you main event WrestleMania, force them to deal with us. He said, well, they aren't here anymore. So I'm going to force you, my tribal chief, out of your comfort zone. I'm going to force you to deal with us because at WrestleMania, in the main event, in my corner, your wise man, my best friend, Paul Heyman. And the reaction from the crowd was very tepid. Maybe there are people that were in the building tonight who were there live who will disagree. Maybe it didn't come across that way on TV, but relative to the reaction Punk got doing pretty much everything else on the show, like for this being the big announcement, like this was not the reaction that they were probably hoping for. But it's not a reaction that surprises me because in the grand scheme of things, it was a very underwhelming announcement. Roman couldn't believe it. He said, "That's the favor?" So he starts laughing. He said, Heyman loves him. Heyman needs him. He saved him. He saved Paul Heyman. Even if he let him, he wouldn't do it. Wise man goes, "Yes, my tribal chief. Let this desperate fool down easy, will you?" And Roman is standing there with his arms crossed, got this big, like, smug look on his face. Heyman started tearing up, and he starts getting very emotional. And Roman, he wasn't looking so smug anymore. He goes, "Are you crying?" He goes, "You better wipe him up and tell him no." Heyman tried to tell him, he wasn't talking into the mic, but you could see him talking like, yeah, the family was in trouble and going back to War Games, right? The family was in trouble and I made a promise. And Roman snaps back. He goes, "I took you in." Says, "I made you relevant. Tell him no." Heyman said nothing. Roman said, "I'm going to give you one more opportunity. Tell him no." Heyman said, "No, my tribal chief. I can't do that." And the crowd cheered. Rollins was just laughing in the corner. Roman backed Heyman into the corner. And at that point, Punk attacked him from behind. He hoisted Reigns up on his shoulders. He delivered a go to sleep. And then he glared at Rollins, who was standing in the corner. Heyman, meanwhile, was on the apron. He was down on his knees, like draped over the middle rope, looking at Roman's dead body in the middle of the ring. He was shouting, "No!" He was crying. Rollins ends up leaving the ring to booze instead of locking up with Punk. And the show closed with Punk doing the go-to-sleep gesture. And we actually got an overrun on this show because that doesn't happen very often, if ever, on this SmackDown show. Certainly didn't happen on Fox, because on Fox you couldn't go over. If anything, they usually ended 2 or 3 minutes early on Fox. But they had a 3-minute overrun on this show, which should never, ever happen because the show is 3 hours. And if you need an overrun on a 3-hour show, then you're doing something wrong. But this did go into overtime tonight. It doesn't happen very often. Well, look, Punk did tell Roman before War Games. If you remember the segment on SmackDown, Roman, when they were in the ring together for the first time, and Roman looked at him, he goes, "He's my wise man." Right? And Punk responded back to him and goes, "We'll see." And so here we are now, all these many months later. And in fact, Paul Heyman is going to be CM Punk's wise man, walking him to the ring for the WrestleMania main event. On a personal level, it's a cool moment for the two of them. It's almost like a full circle moment because their relationship goes back a very long time. Like legit. It goes back to Louisville. It goes back to ECW, the WWE version of ECW. And Heyman wanting CM Punk to go over in that Elimination Chamber match at December to Dismember. He wanted to make Punk his guy. Vince McMahon said no. He wanted Bobby Lashley. And if I remember correctly, I think Punk was actually eliminated first in that chamber match. So it goes back to those days between them. And then, of course, later on, when Punk was in the middle of his 434-day run as champion, he went heel. Heyman became his manager. They were a great pairing. These two go back a long way. And so, to see them now, where Punk is getting his WrestleMania main event for the first time, and he's going to have Paul Heyman in his corner walking him down to the ring. Like, for the two of them, I'm sure it's a big deal to them, and it's a cool moment for them, and that's all well and good. And it does create tension now, between Roman and Heyman. It creates tension involving whether or not, if there's a point in the match at WrestleMania where Roman wants Heyman to help him, does he help him? If Punk wants Heyman to help him do something to Roman, does he help him? Can Paul Heyman bring himself to favor one side over the other? Him being in Punk's corner doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to, turn on the other guy, or he's going to agree, yeah, okay, yeah, I'll pass you a foreign object and you can hit him in the head with it. Like, how is Paul Heyman going to react here? He's going to be pulled in between these two different people. This was always going to be the story for a singles match between Roman and Punk. Only now we're getting it at WrestleMania in a triple threat. But it was always going to be, where does Heyman's loyalty lie? Right? How far does this favor extend? Is it just walking him to the ring and standing in his corner, or does it extend to him doing more than that? We don't know. But it's why I think in the end, when all is said and done, this is going to benefit Seth Rollins. And I think that Seth Rollins, if you ask me right now, as I sit here 2 weeks before, who do I think is the favorite to go over at WrestleMania and win in this main event? It's Seth Rollins. I feel like Roman and Punk effectively cancel each other out, and their hatred for each other in the end, and this drama involving Paul Heyman, it's going to blow up in their face. And they're going to have Heyman so strung out here, and they're going to have him at his wit's end to the point where he just says, you know what? Fuck the both of you. And he may well walk out. Not with Rollins, but Rollins will end up eking out a win. Because some people may look at it a different way and go, oh, well, Rollins is just in there to do the job. I really don't think so. I actually think quite the opposite. I think he has to be the favorite right now. And then Punk and Roman could always go on to have a singles match after that. Rollins could go on to challenge for the World Heavyweight Championship on the Raw side, which is one of the reasons why I think this should be a number one contenders match. And I think it's ridiculous the favor didn't tie into that in some way. Heyman doesn't have the power and the authority to have the winner of this match inserted into the Night 2 main event. It's a stupid idea anyway. The winner of this match should not be inserted into the Night 2 main event, so we get back-to-back triple threats at WrestleMania this year. Right? Cena and Cody have their issue. If you're going to do Cena and Punk, you got to build that up. That needs a proper build with promos back and forth, heel Cena, babyface Punk. You do that match at Money in the Bank. You do that match at SummerSlam, right? You don't just throw it out there on night 2 after announcing it on night 1. So I was never a fan of that idea to begin with, but how would you even square that circle? Like, how do you get to that point where it's like, oh, the favor from Heyman is that the winner of this match is inserted into the main event of night 2? Like, what authority does Paul Heyman even have to make that happen? The answer is none. He doesn't. And why The Rock would even allow something like that, since he's the final boss, after what Punk said about him a few weeks ago, that makes even less sense. What would have made sense was that Heyman could, use his pull, whatever pull he has, to say, look, the winner of this match should get a guaranteed championship match against whatever title is attached to the brand that they belong to. And you don't even have to put a date on it. It doesn't have to be Backlash. It doesn't have to be anything specific, but you get a title shot in your back pocket for a later date. And then you have something tangible on the line. Instead, they went the predictable route, and now it's going to be the Paul Heyman soap opera, starring Seth Rollins. Hey, I'm in there too, at WrestleMania. And that's what the match is going to be built around. That's what the main event is going to be built around now. I thought that as the favor reveal, predictable but underwhelming. I think as long as they drag this out for it, needed to be something more. And I think the fans in Chicago also would agree, just based on their reaction. But I did like how they kind of had you tuned in for the entire show from the opening segment. They used the favor as the hook. I just wish there was a better payoff at the end of it. But it's a very, very newsworthy episode. A lot of implications for WrestleMania. We have number one contenders crown. We have a major WrestleMania match that is now off. We know what the favor is. So we made progress tonight as far as establishing certain things for WrestleMania. This Monday, John Cena is not scheduled to be there. I don't know that John Cena is going to be seen again on TV before WrestleMania. I'm hoping he pops up as a surprise this week or next week. He can get revenge on Cody Rhodes for laying him out with that Crossroads on Monday. Maybe he'll lay out Cody. But right now, he's not scheduled for any more appearances. But Cody will be on SmackDown next Friday. take a look at the Twitter poll. What did you think of SmackDown from Chicago? 70% thumbs up for tonight's show. 19% thumbs in the middle. And roughly 11% thumbs down. That is the poll on X at Solomonster. You guys can go vote. And let me know what you thought of this SmackDown show. Man, that was a lot to unpack. It was a busy show. See, I like those shows because at least there's stuff going on. There are weeks where the entire show feels completely useless. Like if you missed it, you missed nothing. Can't say that about this show. At least there was stuff going on that was important. But man, that women's segment in the ring was just...
Mentos, the fresh maker.
You know what? I think Charlotte needed some Mentos. I think if Wade Barrett would have handed her some Mentos.
Oh, it's a direction you can fuck.
And I think she might have been okay. I think that's what she was missing. By the way, we are now rock solid for 2 rounds of Be the Booker tonight because we hit our likes goal and we hit the other goal in the chat. So we'll be doing 2 rounds a little bit later on. So you guys killed it tonight. I don't know. Maybe we'll get 3. I don't know. We'll see. We're not done yet. Let's start with Death Scythe. He got us started with the early super chats here that you will not see on your screen. But I will start with him. Says, I was thinking after WrestleMania 41, Rey Mysterio should feud with John Cena. Because when Rey won the WWE title in 2011, instead of Cena saying he would wait until another date to let Rey recover, he took it that same night. I remember that, but are they going to build an entire feud around it? No. Again, this is Cena's final year. I don't think they're going to waste time on him and Rey Mysterio. I mean, it could be a TV match one week, but how many TV matches is John Cena going to work? Like, realistically. I don't see it happening. Holiday 197 says, I have a feeling that Seth will cost Roman at WrestleMania in some form.
Jerry Lawler loves
Gunther is with us.
Gunther the Magnificent. All hail Gunther.
Holy shit. Pax Basonica just dropped a Gunther bomb. Haven't seen Gunther all week. Thank you, brother. How about that? I have a feeling that Seth will cost Roman at WrestleMania in some form. This may set up Roman versus Seth at WrestleMania 42, possibly inside Hell in a Cell. I have no interest in that. I have no interest in that. There are other better, bigger matches you could do with Roman instead of running him and Seth back again. Honey Deep Fried Chicken says, Tiffany Stratton's last line on Charlotte Flair was straight savage. Tiffany carried that segment. Boy, it would have been nice if they would have just left it on that note instead of Charlotte having to get the last word. There's no way the Kaiser DMs line was scripted into that segment. She just felt like she was being shown up, and she just spit it out there. He also says Charlotte Flair's promos have been underwhelming. This chicken here accuses WWE of a lack of effort. Just it's bread and water with Charlotte. On the other hand, it's peanut butter and jelly with Tiffany. Broly says you can call it unprofessional, but they made me invested, and it is now the most anticipated match at WrestleMania for me. That is Charlotte and Tiffany. You know what, brother? If that's the most anticipated match for you at WrestleMania, then I hope you enjoy. But I guarantee you're in the minority on that. because that really doesn't do anything to get me any more interested in that match. Honey Deep Fried Chicken says he's starting to like the new SmackDown ring announcer, Mark Nash. He's good. He's good so far. There's something about his voice that it reminds me of Mike Rome. It's like you could have put Mike Rome on there and gotten this guy started in NXT. They just they did it the other way. They did it in reverse. Holiday 197. Kevin deserves another world title run after being the workhorse in WWE, taking dangerous bumps and putting on good matches. Kevin versus Sammy for the world title at WrestleMania 42. We don't even know how long he's going to be out for, dude. I mean, if it's like a spinal fusion type surgery, he could be gone for a year. Like, he may not even be back in time for WrestleMania next year. So I'm not going to sit here and make the WrestleMania 42 main event. I just hope he gets better. Adonix96, would you agree that WWE was actually quite good from the draft in 2016 up until WrestleMania 33? Also, knowing that you attended both shows, WrestleMania 34 or WrestleMania 35? Well, WrestleMania 35, because Kofi Mania was a special moment, and there were some matches on that show that I liked. WrestleMania 34 was not that great. I think the opening match for the Intercontinental was like a triple threat or a fatal four-way. That I remember being very good. The Ronda Rousey debut, teaming with Kurt Angle against Triple H and Stephanie, was the best thing on the entire show. Outside of that, the main event sucked. John Cena and The Undertaker was, 3 minutes? So that was disappointing. Not a whole lot else going on. But as far as was it good from the draft in 2016 up until WrestleMania 33? Honestly, I don't remember. Off the top of my head, I don't remember. There was a period, though, I don't remember if it was the end of 2016 into 2017, though, where SmackDown just absolutely sucked. JM Melagrito. A man without a family. Roman with no more reigns. A chief without a tribe. Cody Rhodes said this in March of 2023. Prophecy fulfilled. See? In the end, Cody was right, man. That's why Cody is the guy right now in WWE. Cody knew. He tried to tell us. Fire Panda. Coming in with a roughly $50 bomb. So Solomonster, you say you listen to the people, right? Then where, oh where are my sound off ice cream bars? Well, Solomonster can't have ice cream anymore, so why am I going to have ice cream bars made? It would have to be that fake ice cream without the dairy in it. Joseph Stewart, did you see Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio doing press for WWE in India? I did. I saw the photo shoot they did. They look like quite the happy couple. Do I think Liv Morgan and Dominic will do a reality TV show together on Netflix for WWE? No, I don't. Eminem, if Kevin Owens can't go for WrestleMania, I think Nick Aldis would be a great replacement. He can get his Mania moment and shine. TNA and NWA would regret giving up on him. I don't think that has anything to do with him wrestling at WrestleMania or not. But yes, it would be a nice moment for him to be able to say that he had. Joseph Stewart, what are DDP's top 5 matches in WCW? Go watch his matches with Randy Savage. Go watch his, really both matches. He had 2 Nitro title matches with Sting, one in 98 and one in 99. And watch his Halloween Havoc match in 98 with Bill Goldberg. Duff's Vids, what do you call a chair on a sheep? A riding lawnmower. Bad joke. Dude, that was awful. That's like beyond bad. That's like Charlotte and Tiffany bad tonight. You should be ashamed. Brother Fluff says, why did Paul Heyman have Paul Bear's makeup on tonight? Well, because he's been very stressed, and I don't know. I guess it fit his demeanor tonight. Joseph says, buy or sell. Michael Keaton as Batman or Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman? Always got to go Catwoman. Sorry, Michael. Avatar, 1977. So it's a battle for Heyman's soul at WrestleMania. Who knew he even had one? LA Knight's finishing move can't hurt a Samoan. Also get well, Kevin Owens. Ron says WWE did not seem to learn from Tony Khan and AEW. A loaded and talented roster is worthless if the booking is mediocre and underwhelming. Well, that is undoubtedly true. I mean, your roster is only as good as the creative that supports it. That's why you can have the best roster in the world and still put on an absolutely shit television product. A Base Bears, thank you for the gifted membership to JM, who is now a channel member. Honey Deep Fried Chicken says, fuck it, Jade Cargill versus Naomi. WrestleMania 41 will overshadow the Charlotte-Tiffany Stratton match. You know what? It could happen. I'm not ready to make that prediction, but who's to say it doesn't happen? I'm still going to say Charlotte and Tiffany end up doing better in the ring and have the better match of the two. But I do think that it's not a triple threat yet, but assuming it's a triple threat, the triple threat for the women's world title will steal the show as far as the women's matches. Mr. Rod says, to hear Kevin Owens have neck surgery and Randy Orton with no match at WrestleMania sucks. Prayers for a speedy recovery. In the words of Ron Simmons, damn. Yeah, it sucks. I mean, the timing on it is just complete shit. But I mean, the guy's been killing himself now for months. You know, the Cody feud, the ladder match, he went from a ladder match to an unsanctioned match. Nick Grasso. After tonight, do they go with Randy Orton against Nick Aldis? There's a story there because this was not the first time Orton RKO'd Aldis. Yep, I talked about that earlier. I think that's the match. That's the match you do. Nick's a smart man. He's thinking along the same lines. Mr. Rod says, enjoyable show overall, but the ending and the Charlotte-Tiffany segment were the two worst easily. Blue Jay, fantasy booking, Warrior versus Gunther. Do you agree? I would love to see Gunther chop the Warrior, but the thing is, the Warrior would probably just no-sell it. So then Gunther would have to chop him harder. I'd like to see that. Alex with the 25. If the pre-show of this year's WrestleMania had its own pre-show, then that's where the Charlotte-Tiffany Stratton match belongs. That back and forth promo was beyond awful. The pre-show of the pre-show. You're going to put the WWE Women's Champion on the pre-show for the pre-show? Broly. Stephanie Vicaire replied to Tiffany shooting on Charlotte with applause emojis. And it's funny, Charlotte started using Vicaire's faceplant move that she had not used in years. Well, Stephanie's awesome. Can't wait to see her on the main roster. Brother Fluff says, I live in the Florida swamps. We're all Hicks. Hey, you said it, not me. Christopher gifted a channel membership to Science Babble Music. So many charitable people here giving the gift of channel memberships. I love it. Reggie with the $4.99. Solo, please help settle this debate with my friend. He thinks Reigns will retire in 3 to 5 years, and he's been phoning it in since 2022. What are your thoughts? Yeah, I mean, it feels like he's been phoning it in. Kind of coasting on autopilot is the way I would put it. He's going to retire in 5 years. You know what? People say that. I mean, he hasn't said it, but people say that, and he's still young enough where as long as he stays healthy and he stays in remission and all that, and he has his part-time schedule, I don't really see a need for him to retire in the next 3 to 5 years. So I'm going to say no. At the schedule he works, I think he'll be around longer than that. Darth Panic, channel member for 35 months, says, seems like WWE is signing a lot of talent recently. Do you think there will be releases from unused talent after WrestleMania? Well, this has been the case in the past. They have the spring cleaning post-WrestleMania. I think there's a very distinct possibility that we will see that. Number 1, Homo sapien. Why shouldn't you write with a broken pencil? Because it's pointless. That is not untrue. Velvet Floor, 18. Russo voice. Bro. Kevin Owens, bro. Should have been the son of Adonis. The son of Adonis, bro. One of the great segments on the sound off. Asia with the $20 super chat. I found your channel a while back, and I'm happy I did. Your reviews are always a great watch. Have a great weekend. Well, thank you. I don't know if it's Asia or Azure. I'll say it twice, though, just to make sure, because I'm sure one or the other is correct. But that's very nice of you to say. I'm glad. When people find the channel, stumble upon the channel, and sometimes it's just even through YouTube recommended videos, which is why I tell you guys to like the videos, because it helps us kind of push them out more. There are people that will stumble on the channel who just, never knew it existed, and then they kind of fall in love with it and start emailing questions, and it's great. I love it. I'm glad you enjoy it. Emperor Comet. Rick just saw the Solomonster Tony Khan gif pop up for the first time. Yeah, that's been around for a while. Emperor Comet, I'll have 2 number 9s, a number 9 large, a number 6 with extra dip, number 7, 2 number 45s, 1 with cheese, and a large soda. Emperor, I think you drove up to the window, and I think your voice recorded your order into your phone, and it ended up on the stream. Dorenzo, not gonna lie, I kind of like how much of a shit show the Tiffy Charlotte segment was. I called it a train wreck. Some people enjoy that. Cripple Punk. I miss Kevin already. I hope he has a smooth surgery and recovery, though. Kevin Owens is still right, and I hope you're having a good night, Solo. I am Cripple Punk. I bet that's what Seth Rollins is going to try to do at WrestleMania. Oh, that's a GTA San Andreas reference, was the order. Believe it or not, I never played San Andreas. If I play it now, will I finish it still before GTA 6 comes out? I played Vice City. I did not play San Andreas. Boomerang. I was dying at the Kaisers in my DMs line. Charlotte always be taking things to heart. that she started. Don't forget how she fell out with Becky. Oh, I haven't forgotten about that. That was just as awkward. This is not the first time that Charlotte has been involved in a very awkward segment like this and has reacted in such a way. Chris Manson with the $30 Mentos super chat. Excited for Dynasty. The Hangman stuff really sold me. Swerve versus Hangman has to be the destination for All In. That Owen Hart tournament is either Will Ospreay's to lose or Hangman Page. The Hangman Swerve stuff at the end of Dynamite was the most interesting thing on the entire show. And it was like 60 seconds in the back. Like the stuff with Swerve and Moxley, I could not give less of a shit about. But the Swerve Hangman thing was very interesting, and I think it's going to play into the main event on Sunday. I do.
You suck.
Eminem. We need Double Be the Booker in our life, and we got it. Yes, we did. It's coming up soon. Sean D. 24 months of channel membership. I've been thinking, and I really believe Cody won the promo battle. I think people are saying John Cena won because they are so hyped for him being a heel. I said on Monday night in my review that I gave Cody the edge. Blue Jay, Gypsy Joe equals Charlotte Flair. Oh my God. Gypsy Joe equals Charlotte Flair. No sell a promo. Now I'm not going to be able to get that visual out of my head of Charlotte Flair as Gypsy Joe. OM too cool. If there was such a thing called a company trade-off, I would happily trade Charlotte Hogan for Jamie Hayter or Tony Storm. CNM 3443. Charlotte is putting up prime Ross Geller numbers for divorces. I think 2 more and she'll be all caught up, and tied up with her dad. She's going to eventually pass her dad's title record. And unfortunately for her, I mean, she's kind of headed that way on the marriage front as well. Sam Bluestein, not a Charlotte fan, but the vitriol that she has been met with since returning is uncalled for. I don't think she's in a good place mentally. Look, I mean, she was out there spilling her guts in that first promo on Raw, talking about her injury, and she got booed. And how does that not affect you? How does that not affect your mind, right? But now these segments here, it's just whatever place she is or isn't in mentally, like they're just objectively bad segments, and you have to call out bad television when there's bad television. But like a segment like tonight where the crowd is booing her, and she clearly allows it to get her rattled. I just don't understand. And so then she reacts the way that she does, and she's got to have the last word, and she can't let Tiffany have the last word, and it's just ridiculous. Duff's Vids, what is Mickey Mouse's favorite game? Mini golf. It's a little bit better. It's definitely better than that last one. Sean D says, most of what John said to Cody, this is a continuation from his previous message. Most of what John said to Cody, save the Nepo part, is either doubly true for him or works better if he said it 10 years ago against Roman Reigns. Yeah, well, I mean, look, the promos he's been cutting would have been pitch perfect 12, 13 years ago. He's had that in his back pocket for a long time. Pax Basonica is a channel member now as well. Thank you for the bomb and thank you for the membership. Thank you, Pax. Duff's Vids. You heard about the disease you get from kissing a bird. It's called chirpies. And it's untweetable. Oh my God.
You suck.
Wow. Untweetable. Justin G just gifted a membership to CNM 3443. Holiday 197. The build to this year's WrestleMania is looking chaotic and underwhelming with many matches thrown together at the last minute. I hope they start storylines this year for at least 5 matches at next year's WrestleMania. For at least 5 matches, I think you're going to be very disappointed. Pax Basonica with that $50 bomb from earlier tonight. Reigns is obviously of the status that he no longer needs to be champion. However, in your opinion, do you think they will put the strap back on him soon or at any point in the future? Is it inevitable? Or are the days of Reigns as champion over for good? I'm not going to say they're over for good. I think you're absolutely right. He does not need the championship. There are other stories to tell with him, whether it's him in Punk, whether it's him in Rock, whatever it may be. That even him and Gunther at some point, I would like to see them work together. And it doesn't necessarily need to be for a championship. I'm going to say that he will be champion again at some point, but it could be a couple of years from now. Like, I don't think it's going to be any time in the near future. But I won't say that he'll never be champion again. You know, there would have been a time where I would have said, you know, John Cena, he's not full-time anymore. He's not really around anymore. He's not going to be champion again, right? But, like, he's probably going to be champion very soon. So who's to say that Roman won't have another run? It won't be a fucking 3.5-year run. I mean, God forbid, but I don't think it's going to happen for a while. Mr. Ruby Dog. JD and Eugene separated at birth. Eugene was actually a very good wrestler if you take the gimmick away. Alfonso. Dream collaboration song I recommend you listen to. Baby Metal and Poppy. From Me to You. It's a banger. Didn't they use a Baby Metal song for one of the PLEs a few months ago? I don't remember the name of it. I have to look that one up though. Baby Metal and Poppy, From Me to You. Poppy had a couple of good songs off that last album that just came out. Base Bear is Hardcore Invitational 2025 at WrestleMania like in 2000. No. By the way, the finish of that match at WrestleMania that year was fucked up. As in, it wasn't meant to go down the way that it did. Iwan Figueroa, CM Punk welcomes you to the channel. Base Beer is Braun could revive the Doink gimmick. I think it'll work. When that image appears on the screen, it just works, right? It just fits. Baby Metal. Tickets were $2,000 for a Baby Metal concert. I guess I won't be going to a Baby Metal concert. Eminem says, we got the #1 contenders for the US and tag titles, but come on, do we really believe that? Also, is the women's mid-card titles a waste of time? So far, yes. They have been so far. They can be saved, but I think they've been mostly a waste of time so far. C Guy is here. Thank you for the gifted membership to Rick Shaw. Devin from New Jersey. My brother never got why Punk getting his WrestleMania main event is such a milestone for fans when how often is the main event even the best match on the show? Well, I mean, last year. Last year, it certainly was probably the best match on the show. But it's just, it's a status thing. They've built it up for so many years. Like, the main event is such a big deal. They've cultivated this idea that the main event is the end-all, be-all on these shows. And at one time, it greatly annoyed Punk, legitimately, that he didn't get the spot and The Rock did. When The Rock came back and just wasn't a full-time guy. I don't think he's in the same headspace anymore, but they have created this story. They've manufactured this story that he cares so much about being in the WrestleMania main event, when in reality, like, I don't really think he does anymore. But it's just the story that they've chosen to tell. Nick Grasso says, did you see The Dark Side of the Ring on Ludwig Borga? Very interesting life that guy lived. Exit only. Yeah, oh yeah. I saw it all right. I saw it all right. I'll talk about it on Sunday. This Tuesday, by the way, it is Vader. That is the episode. Base Beer says Punk versus Reigns, custody of Heyman ladder match. Heyman on a pole. How about that? Heyman on a pole, bro. They have to reinforce that pole. Tonga Loa Superfan with a $20 super chat. Your longest stream is 5 hours. Be prepared to break that record on the night that Tonga Loa returns. I know you'll definitely have a lot to say on his return. You might even have to break out the whiteboard and plan his booking. I may have to break out the hard liquor for that one. Justin G, I feel Tiffany did some low blows because Flair would. I don't know what was and wasn't scripted, but evidently a lot of what they ended up saying was not planned. So I'm sure we'll find out more about this segment in the days to come. Retro KOH, buy, rent, sell on Catwomen. Michelle Pfeiffer, Anne Hathaway, and Halle Berry. That right there, I mean, you talk about like the triple threat of just beautiful, sexy women. Oh my goodness. How am I supposed to choose here? How can I go against Halle Berry? Halle Berry would be my number one, so I'm going to buy on her. I'm going to rent on... So tough. I'm going to rent on Anne Hathaway and sell on Michelle Pfeiffer. Base Beer's favorite ECW match. One of mine is Beulah versus Bill Alfonso. I don't have a favorite ECW match. I don't. There's no one match that I would call my favorite. Duff's Vids, how does a non-binary person kill people? They, them. How does a non... Where do you come up with these? The Juliet, the new ring announcer, seems to be doing well so far. Also, a great debut, in my opinion, of Rey Fenix. Yeah, it was a great debut. Just got to keep the momentum going and hope that he can catch fire in the same way that his brother has, because Penta's been killing it, man. And he's super over on Raw. Base Beer says Jey Uso looks like Zabuma? I don't know what that is. No KO Mania, he says. No, not this year. Not this year. C Guy is here with the 23. Oh, the Psy Guy. Have I been fucking up your name again? I will donate money until you say my name right. Also, nice San Andreas reference from Comet. So actually, if you're gonna donate money until I say your name right, I should continue saying your name wrong. Is that what you're telling me? Is that what you're telling me, C Guy? The Mount Vernon Kid, Christopher Bennett. 35 months of membership. Hey, Solo, have you seen the latest Kairi Sane photos? The progress is working. She's bulking up. Also, John Carpenter got his star in the Walk of Fame. Yes, I mentioned that earlier. Kairi Sane is bulking up. I got to see this. I haven't seen these photos. I mean, what, she's got her Scott Steiner going? Like, what are you talking about here? C guy. Is that a threat? And Base Beerus. Rush Hour or Fifth Element? Chris Tucker performance. Rush Hour. I would go Rush Hour. Kyrie getting swole. I have not seen these photos, so I will have to look this up. Hey, Creflo coming in with the 20 spot. Look at this. Hi, Solo. This is one of those times I disagree with you, but the 0 for 3 / volleyball line from Tiffany was colder than the steak you ordered at Bennigan's for your birthday. Is your squeaky Charlotte a new super chat? Oh, I don't know. I'll have to go back and watch it and see. I just kind of busted it out in the heat of the moment. No, I'm not saying Tiffany didn't get some good lines in on Charlotte. I said this was a much better performance and night for her than that split screen was. I just thought the segment overall was a fucking train wreck. And Charlotte was just awful. I don't think she reacted well to it at all. I think she got rattled. I think she got rattled maybe even by some of what Tiffany said, not just the booze. Hey, it's C Guy again. He says, yes, it is a threat. And he dropped another 10 on me. Thank you, CI Guy. I appreciate it. Can you imagine, like, if Tiffany is scheduled to go over at WrestleMania and Charlotte pulls like a Hogan on Warrior at WrestleMania 6 where she'll lay down, she'll take the 3, but at like 3.1, she does the kick out. Like the post 3 kick out. Oh, man. All right, well, you guys earned 2 rounds of Be the Booker. I love it. So let's get to it. Let's do round number 1. Let's get into it.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to Be the Booker.
All right. We had no more Hall of Fame announcements tonight, by the way. So it sounds like the Hall of Fame class maybe is complete. And there was no announcement about Kamala. He was supposed to go in, so I wonder what happened with that. All right, tag team Be the Booker. We begin with Kane and The Big Show, holding the old Raw penny belts. The bronze belts. Forgot they had those. Kane and Big Show against the Faces of Fear. You know what? As far as like a big guy match, I can fuck with that. Sure. I mean, you got Meng. Meng is not somebody you want to mess with. That's for sure. All right, women's Be the Booker. Right, we got a hoss fight. We have someone who was not on the WrestleMania card this year. We have Nia Jax. After having probably, like, objectively her best year, wrestling-wise, she is not on the WrestleMania card this year. Nia Jax one-on-one with, oh my goodness, Xia Li. I was trying to think of what her name is now in TNA, but I still know her as Xia Li. And that's not a match I care to see. And our main event of the evening. This is our WrestleMania main event. This right here, this match, this is the moment that these folks here live for. This is the moment that they point to the sign and hope for. Let's see what we get. Bam Bam Bigelow. And you know what? Bam Bam Bigelow has a WrestleMania main event to his name. He actually did headline a WrestleMania. Lawrence Taylor is not in here, so we're not getting a rematch. I thought we were going with that. Bryan Danielson against Bam Bam Bigelow. How How's that for a match? Bam Bam Bigelow in his prime against Bryan Danielson. That, you know what? That would be a fucking amazing match. That's great. I love that one. All right, we're not wasting any time here. We're going right into round 2. That would rock, man. That would be fucking amazing. What a great match that would have been. All right, round number 2. We're going to kick off here with some stipulations. We throw these in whenever we get the bonus round. And so we're going to pick a tag team match first. But before we pick the tag team match, let's see what kind of match it's going to be. It's going to be a ladder match. So now we know the stipulation. Tag team ladder match is what we are heading into here. The Usos, Jimmy and Jay. I'm sure they've been in some tag team ladder matches before. Jimmy and Jay Uso are going to take on the former SmackDown tag team champions here in Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa in a tag team ladder match. Gets a bell for me. Women's match. We need a stip. We have a lumberjack match. I don't like lumberjack matches, but we've got to book one now. Would this be a lumberjill? Actually, I should probably... Do I have lumberjill? We'll just keep this. All right, lumberjack match. Xia Li again for the second time. Have we ever landed on her before tonight? Now we just hit her twice. Are you kidding me? Xia Li against Sasha Banks in a lumberjack match. One more match. This is the night 2 WrestleMania main event. And it's going to be, oh, look at this. One of our new steps. It is an Ultimate X match. You are a TNA fan. You are very familiar with what the Ultimate X match is all about. It's a very dangerous match, though. You've got to do some climbing. This will be very interesting, depending on who we land on, considering the dangers involved. But you know what? Ultimate X, I think that fits here for a main event. Now, can we put? You could do a one-on-one Ultimate X match, though, right? Should it be one-on-one? We should probably pick the number of wrestlers in this match. I just realized it could be a multi-man match. Why don't we do this? Why don't we pick 4? How about that? We'll pick 4 men for the Ultimate X match. Liv Morgan gives you her room key. Now pick a stip. Oh, man. I was so excited to book an Ultimate X match, but now we have to change the stip. Those are the rules. The Ultimate X match is gone. We've released it. We have to pick a new stipulation. Liv Morgan said so. We go from an Ultimate X match to a boring old hardcore match. I feel like we get these every week. Oh, man. Just the boring old hardcore match? Really? Man, we go from a multi-man Ultimate X match to a one-on-one hardcore match. With Limitless Keith Lee on one side. I don't know if we're ever going to see him in the ring again. I just hope he's healthy and doing well. Keith Lee against Al Bundy in a hardcore match. My money is on Al Bundy. And that is Be the Booker. Well, we certainly ended on a high note. Anything with Al Bundy in it is an automatic bell as far as I'm concerned. Poor Keith Lee. He just came back. He's going right back on the injury list. After he fights Al Bundy in a hardcore match, he's going to be back on injured reserve. With Peg in his corner. Yeah, she's totally going to turn on him. Low blow, and then she leaves with Keith Lee. Is that how you would book it? We're in Chicago, Joey says. Al Bundy is the king of Chicago. Hey, Near is with us. Near is never far behind. Good to have you, brother. Hope you're doing well. Creflo says, if Charlotte Flair wasn't Charlotte Flair, do you think her getting rattled in that segment would end her push? You know what? I think it might. I think it might, yes. Arabian Knight says, ideas for Orton at WrestleMania. Drew and Priest winner faces Orton on night 2 in a number 1 contenders match at Backlash, or he has an open challenge and out comes Aleister Black. I don't like either one of those ideas. I mean, the Aleister Black thing would be cool, but you're not going to beat Aleister Black. And like I said, Orton really needs to win at Mania because I would have him challenging for the title of Backlash. He's not going to lose at WrestleMania and then challenge for the WWE title because that doesn't make any sense. I would stick with a safe match. Him and Nick Aldis. Give Nick Aldis a WrestleMania match. There's already been one RKO previously. Now he's RKO'd him again. You've given him a reason now to get very angry, and it's not going to be that hard to set the match up, I don't think. The only thing is, like, Nick Aldis hasn't wrestled in a long time. And the Randy or the Kevin Owens injury was such a sudden thing. It's not one of those things where when you haven't wrestled, you can just sort of, warm up, I would think, in a week and, be in ring shape. So, like, is he in a position to go out there and have a WrestleMania match? Is he going to be in the match? Did they give him a heads up? Has he been preparing? Or there's other, aspects that go into it. It's not as easy as, oh, okay, I guess I'm wrestling at WrestleMania now, and I haven't had a match in years, but sure, he needs some time to prepare, I would imagine. RDS Harry, Priest and McIntyre in a street fight at WrestleMania. Yeah, I mean, it would make it more interesting than it is right now. And Creflo with the 5 says, wasn't there a wrestling episode of Married with Children? Or am I thinking of Family Matters with the Bushwhackers? No, you're thinking of the Married with Children episode where they had WrestlePalooza and Bud Bundy had to wrestle King Kong Bundy in a bumblebee costume to gain entry into No Ma'am. So, because King Kong Bundy was in 2 different episodes. That was in like the later seasons, but he was also one of Peg's family members in like the first or second season of the show. What was his name? Uncle Irwin. Remember he put his head through the door at the end of the episode? And Pax Basonica with a 20. Been a fan since the age of 8. Now 42. But my God, I thought he was talking about the sound off. I go, am I that fucking old? I read that at first like...
Why is Solomonster a Punk hater? Why does he hate Punk so much? What did he ever do to him?
I read that at first. I thought you were saying you started listening to the sound off at 8 and you're 42 now. I said, brother, I've been doing this for a long time, but I haven't been doing it for that long. Now, he says he's been a wrestling fan for that long. And he's biased to WWE. Very much enjoy your content and in-depth knowledge of the business in general. It's a breath of fresh air, and I wish I would have discovered this channel years ago. Well, that's awesome, man. That makes my night when I hear stuff like that. And I'm glad you found the channel. Again, sometimes people find it randomly and they stumble in. Sometimes it gets recommended, but I don't really care as long as they find it. So I'm glad you enjoy the content. I do these streams multiple times every week. I have the main podcast, which is the main audio show. I've been doing that for almost 18 years, and that drops every Sunday. So you always have plenty of content. Thank you, Pax. We got little baby Fire Panda with another 50 bomb. Great news, Solo. The Five Nights at Freddy's 2... This is a sequel. The Five Nights at Freddy's 2 movie trailer has come out, and it looks great. Comes out December 5th this year. And because I know you secretly watched the first movie, I hope you like the sequel. It was such a secret that I couldn't tell you anything about the movie. I'm still waiting on that proper Cloverfield sequel. And Black Mirror, Season 7, which drops on Friday, a week from tonight. Thank you, Fire Panda. And Luis with the $10 super chat. Rest in peace, John Zunino, one of L.A. Belmont High School's best math teachers and sports coach. Just found out a few hours ago that he is gone. Biggest gut punch to me because of my YouTube username. That's right. You have Belmont right there in your username. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I don't know if was he your teacher or did you just know of him? I mean, it's sad either way, so I'm sorry to hear that. But yeah, Luis is always representing Belmont High School. He's got it right there in his name. Yeah, Vader was on Boy Meets World. Rock was on that 70s show. I think Ken Shamrock was too. Matt Stryker was my teacher. He was a teacher here in New York City. Got fired once they realized he was moonlighting as a wrestler. He was taking days off from school to go wrestle. So he got fired. Thoughts on all the wrestler appearances on Walker, Texas Ranger in the 90s? You know, I didn't watch much Walker, Texas Ranger outside of those final few minutes when it would air before Raw would go on. That was about it. I do know that one of the actors on the show, I forget the actor's name, but he was also on Matlock. And he may have gone right from Matlock to Walker, Texas Ranger. I forget his name, though. I think he passed away a number of years ago. But no, I wasn't really a Walker, Texas Ranger guy. There he is. There's heel Cena. Blue Jay. Elvis was a huge Hogan fan. Did you know? Oh, sure. Yeah. I just mentioned that on TNT the other night. I mean, if Hogan says it, it must be true. He says Elvis used to come to those shows in Memphis just to watch him wrestle. Of course, Elvis was already dead by that point, so maybe it was the ghost. He saw the ghost of Elvis up in the stands when he would wrestle. Yeah, he was in Die Hard. Yes. He was also in Die Hard. He was the guy that was in charge of trying to open the vault. Yep, same guy. But on Matlock, he played a character, Conrad McMasters. He was basically Matlock's like private investigator. Yes, thank you, Roderick. Clarence Gilliard. Yes. I believe that was his name. Stone Cold on Nash Bridges. You know, I'd always heard that they wanted him to have his own spin-off, but yeah, I mean, he was still at the peak of his wrestling career. He wasn't going to be going off to do some CBS show. I think his name, what was his character name on there? Jake Cage, I think was his name. Craflo says my grandma used to watch Matlock. Well, look, I didn't watch it when I was younger, but I've gained an appreciation for it when I come across it now. And by the way, this new Matlock show they have with Kathy Bates has fuck all to do with the old Matlock. I think literally like on the show they acknowledge like she took the name from the television character. It's very misleading. Like when they brought back Matlock, you're like, oh, maybe she's like his wife or something, even though his wife on the show died and we never saw her. But it has literally nothing to do with the original Matlock. They're literally just whoring out the name. And they're just attaching it to this new show. I hate that. It's very misleading. Well, one thing you'll never see me doing is whoring myself out. I'll tell you that. But you can see me back here live on the stream Sunday night after... You like that? You like that little segue there, huh? Sunday night, we have AEW Dynasty. And I will be live when that show is over. And, of course, back here Monday night for the Raw Post Show. Sound Off episode 908 will be going up Sunday afternoon. That should be dropping on all the usual podcast platforms, so watch for that. And check out all the other content here on the channel as well. There's a whole bunch of it. Base Beerus says, Silent Library, Fear Factor, Family Feud. Yep, they've had WWE episodes for all those shows. I always like the Family Feud ones that they did back in the 90s with Ray Combs when they would have the wrestlers on. Those were the best. And did I see Kane and See No Evil? Yes, I did. There was a sequel. See No Evil 2. I saw that one too. All right, be well. Stay safe. Hit that like button on your way out. Thank you all for the great support tonight. I appreciate it. And I will see you back here very soon for more Sound of Live here on YouTube. Until then, take care, guys.